Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name's Keaton Weiss here, of course, with Russell Dobular.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. We are all gathered here. Nice crowd to start the show here. Pretty evenly split between the Rumble crowd and the YouTube crowd. 435 on the Rumble side, 439 on the YouTube side. That's a nice crowd to start the afternoon here. Thank you all very much for being here. Let's hit that like button. Let's juice that algo. Let's get a crowd in here because we do have a pretty big show today. Lots of serious stuff going down with a couple of jokes sprinkled in. As always, this is Russ's last day from the home studio for a while. Russell set sail for our nation's capital tomorrow. So there you go. It'll be Dobular crossing the I-95 tomorrow.
I can almost feel the swell of patriotism in my breast.
They'll do a painting of you on a bus crossing the I-95. You're taking a train. He's taking an Amtrak. Taking an Amtrak.
I am taking an Amtrak. I'm not taking the fast one. No money for that in the kitty. No Acela. No Acela.
So it's what? It's like a 9-hour trip, right? It's a long trip.
It's a 3.5-hour trip. What do you mean?
Oh, that's right. No, because
are you serious? 9 hours?
No, but no, because when you go, I'm thinking you're coming from up here. When you come from up here, it takes a long time. It's 7, 8, or 9 hours because the Amtrak stops local.
Oh, yeah, I guess it would be like 7, right? Because it's 3 hours from Albany.
Well, it's basically it's 2 tickets. The reason it takes long from here,
you got to
is
transfer.
You got to basically you get. I mean, it's one ticket. They sell it as a package, but the first train
you got to
is
transfer.
From Albany to Penn Station, and then you got to wait a while at Penn Station and get the other train. So it takes almost 9 hours. So that's where I got that from. I'm thinking it's going to take you that long, but no, from the city, it's not long. Not a long trip.
Yeah, it's going to be 3.5 hours. I'll work on my speech. As most of you know, or some of you know, I'll be speaking at Rage Against the War Machine. So I'll work on the speech on the train. But I'm staying for as long as I am because, if we're going to spend the money to go down there, I've never gone sightseeing in D.C. So I decided to stay a few extra days at my own expense. That's not where your money's going.
Right.
Company just pays for the work parts over the weekend. But I said, hey, man, I mean, I'm already there. I've never done that stuff. I've never gone to the Library of Congress. I've never taken the tour of the Senate. I'll do all that stuff.
Oh, that'll be fun. And we'll have some stuff from D.C. to share with you guys. Of course, Rage Against the War Machine is going to be live streamed on the 28th. So is the Kingston rally, which I will be attending as audience, not as a speaker. Although I am available to fill in if they should need a fill-in for anyone. But that will be, I will make myself available in that event. But I plan on just being amongst the people filming the events and maybe getting a word in with some of the speakers, doing some on-the-spot interviews if I can get to them. But yeah, big weekend coming up. Big weekend coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty funny. I'm going to be covering the event. Keaton's going to be covering what it seems like a de facto counter event. Clearly, they're holding it on the same day rather pointedly. And I'm covering the Restore the Republic rally as press the next day. So Keaton's going to be getting content up there. I'll be getting content in DC. You'll be getting a lot of good stuff Sunday. Let's put it that way.
A lot of good stuff Sunday. Kit Cabello, our friend Kit, will be hosting the main show with me on Sunday since Russ is going to be, if all goes relatively smoothly, at the after party event for the Rescue the Republic, maybe getting some more interviews. So I'll be live with our buddy Kit on Sunday night. But we got a lot to do between now and then, so let's get into it. Folks, the least serious story of the day, maybe even the least serious story of the year. The Lincoln Project tweeted this out. Unironically, Bernie Sanders and Dick Cheney are united on something. That tells us all we need to know. So this is actually a Lincoln Project cartoon featuring an animated Bernie Sanders and an animated Dick Cheney trying to get along for the sake of electing Kamala Harris.
Dick, we never got along.
Correct.
You were a warmonger.
And you were a commie.
Surprising to be on the same side as you.
Surprising to me, too.
I'm still on the left.
I'm still on the right.
But if we can agree on Trump...
It means something big.
Bigger than policy.
Bigger than ideology.
We are both voting for Kamala Harris.
Because this election is a choice between America...
or Trump.
That was amazing. You know how much
money? That is so adorable. That's so adorable. Isn't that cute? Aren't they both so cute. Oh my god, I love that ad. I love it. It's so cute. Look at Dick Cheney. You know, he's just like a curmudgeon. He's just an old curmudgeon. You know, he's right. He reminds me of my uncle. My uncle Hunts.
Yeah, my uncle Hans. My uncle doesn't torture, but other than that, he reminds me just of my uncle. He's just like my uncle.
There are family stories, but I've never wanted to get into it with my uncle. But he's a lot like my uncle. Maybe exactly like my uncle. I don't want to get into it.
The amount of money that this organization takes in to put out stuff like this, once again, just example number, 3,000 of the grift is in the duopoly. Man, you can produce stuff like this unironically and tweet it out and trust that you will be in business tomorrow and every day thereafter if you just play the game that you're supposed to. And, there's a lot of talk, especially with the Rescue the Republic coming up. And, Rage Against War Machine had this same issue a year and a half ago when they did the first thing of the left and the right and the horseshoe theory and this and that. Well, what about this? What about this collaboration? This is horseshoe theory of a kind, just inside the Overton window, right? The furthest left guy who is allowed in Washington, Bernie Sanders, gets to make common cause in this funny odd couple parody cartoon with the furthest right figure within the Overton window, Dick Cheney. That kind of horseshoe theory is not only permissible, it is to be lauded. It is to be celebrated. It is to be commended that people of opposite points of view can come together and unite behind a cause. As long as you do it on the establishment's terms, they not only allow for that, they celebrate that. They like that. That's why they could tweet something out like this unironically and trust that the checks will keep coming. And boy, will they. Will they ever?
Well, yeah. A lot of people, our audience has grown a lot. I haven't talked about this in a while. In my past life with my theater company, we did a video when my politics were still very shit-lib. And it was a response to somebody had done a video that went viral about Obama to you picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. So we did a response to that called you picked a fine time to be a dumbass. That shit, and we were like a nothing account. Like we never used the account. I think it might have been the first video on that account. 5.5 million views that thing has to date. Wow. Somewhere around there. 5.5 million views. That is where the money is, because I was told YouTube kept featuring it on the homepage. Because who do you think works for YouTube? People with those kinds of politics. You do what we do, you have to constantly worry they're going to give you the axe. Forget about putting you on the homepage.
Exactly. 2 channels got whacked this week. And that's why we push the Rumble. That's why we push the membership. But yeah, no, this kind of stuff, totally permissible, adorable. And you know how shrewd they are. You could see here, I won't play the whole thing again, but
Dick, we never
they even
got
did
along.
like an odd couple type theme without using the melody because that would have been copyright issue.
They would have, they would have to pay.
Yeah, they would have to pay. So they would if they use that's an issue,
right?
But so shrewd, good operation that they have.
Played around with it a little bit. This is the kind of politics that you get from watching corporate media. In the end, we're all on the same team. This is all about saving American democracy. What about our foreign policy? It's complicated. Right. It's complicated. These people, they try to do the right thing, but it's a difficult world. And, in the end, there are dictators and threats all around, and we have to try to negotiate that. Sometimes we make mistakes. This is what watching that shit does to your brain, man. I saw somebody, we just did a couple of theater pieces for the first time in a while, and I saw somebody who very much, she used to be a Green, but she organizes to support Democrats every election cycle, and I guess she's getting a lot of shit from pro-Palestine people more than she's used to.
Right.
And she was, saying, leave me alone. You do you. You don't have to love people to vote for them and all that shit. And one of the people in the comments said, I'm so glad that you're saying this. It's like Stephanie Rule says. This is how these people think, man. This is how they think Stephanie Rule is someone to quote unironically.
Yeah, unironically, right. Yeah. Well, Stephanie Rule was just on Bill Maher. That might be why, because there was a piece that we almost
That
covered
makes
today.
sense. Yeah.
We almost covered it today. Brett Stevens, who's terrible, neocon.
And
big
another
Israel
one of them,
guy. Go ahead.
not to cut you off, another one of them dropped a video from Olayemi talking about her brilliant insight about why you should support Kamala.
Oh, Olayemi's she's for Kamala too. Interesting. Yeah, no.
Well,
she
basically made the Nader argument. What was that, Nader? No, Chomsky. Chomsky.
Yeah,
said, you have to vote for Biden because voting is strategic and da 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 da, and all that.
Yes.
But in this particular case, I don't really feel like you can argue that you are as likely to be able to influence the Trump White House as on these issues as you are going to be able to influence the Harris White House, and in both cases, slim to nil.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie Rule was on Bill Maher, and the segment that we almost covered goes on where Brett Stevens, who's a terrible guy, neocon, big Zionist guy, says something to the effect of, I'm an undecided voter, meaning I guess he's between voting for Kamala and not voting at all. I can't imagine he would vote for Trump. He's one of the never trade, but very much cut from the Lincoln Project cloth. He's not with them, but he's that kind of guy. And he says, but it is troubling that she has only done one puff piece interview. She hasn't really fleshed out a policy agenda. And Stephanie Rule says, when you go to Nirvana, I'll move in next door and we could be neighbors. And basically saying that, hey, this isn't utopia where politicians court voters. Right. I mean, like the world. This is what's so ironic is they view this as an existential fight to preserve democracy. They have no understanding of how democracy actually works. They view democracy as a spectator sport where we just observe what's going on and then we pick which option we like. They have no concept of people actually influencing the politicians. Right. That's what democracy is. And that concept is just completely lost. They have absolutely no understanding of that, yet they care so much about democracy.
Right. This is what I call the peasant mind. It is the assumption that you don't really have power.
Right. Exactly,
and that's the way it has to be.
It has to be. Right.
You can't challenge that. So if you start talking about holding politicians accountable in any way other than an Oliver Twist way, please, sir, may I have some more? If you're talking about really challenging power, you're a fairy duster. You're a fairy duster. You got your head in the clouds. You're foolish. You're not a serious person. This is what watching that shit does to your brain. Now I'm kind of curious because I never read that comment past Stephanie Rule, but that sounds about right in terms of like what she would have been referring to.
Yes, probably.
It's probably that. But yeah, that is how they want you to think. But we are well into the Romans called themselves a republic well after Julius Caesar ended the republic. It's a brand. It's a brand. We have to preserve democracy because the name democracy has a lot of cachet in our society because of our heritage. So invoking its name in defense of a candidate or a cause, they perceive it as having a lot of potency. It still does with some people, but not like it used to.
That is correct. Candace Strike, thanks for the $2. Hey, DD, looking spiffy per usual. Thank you, Candace Strike. Appreciate that very much.
Really, spiffy?
Spiffy.
That must be new slang for crappy.
Yeah, no, I think
we're just not up on the linguistic drift.
I think people are very excited for my new look, and now I can maintain it because I have an electric razor, so it doesn't take me forever. I don't have to cut myself up shaving and make a big mess. I think I can maintain this. I think I can keep this going. Kemen G. Sagar is the only one who can unite us. He's an avowed fan of Daryl Cooper and Taylor Swift. There you go. Thank you, Kemen G. He should run for president. He should speak at Rescue the Republic. He's local. Kuznetsky Bassane.
I'm surprised he's not.
Yeah, why not? Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99 over on YouTube. The super sticker, appreciate that. JM gave us a nice thumbs up for $2, appreciate that. Medweb for $1.99. Nobody. Russell, but yeah, man. Yeah, that's one of Russell's Russellisms. We all have our isms, you know. Indeed, that's one of my isms, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got their
Very
Yogi
good.
Berra. Yeah, very good. That's right. Very good. They're Yogi Berra-isms. All right, folks. Getting a nice crowd filing in here. Let's hit that like button. Let's hit that subscribe button over on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. All right, Russell found the story that I think is pretty interesting. So why don't you take this away?
Got to get into running the story cross-legged posture.
There you are.
All right, so they are coming at Rashida Tlaib pretty hard, as usual, as they come at anybody with an opinion that challenges their narrative.
Right, and the word "they" is obvious anti-Semitism, so they'll say that we are implying something by saying "they."
Yes. What we mean is the establishment.
The establishment.
What we mean is the establishment.
Yes.
But okay, so she gave an interview to the Detroit Metro Times that was in very bad faith branded as anti-Semitic. A Metro Times just put out an article contradicting those claims. So let's take a look. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, a Democratic state lawmaker, and some news agencies are falsely claiming that U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib said Nessel's office only filed charges against pro-Palestinian activists at the University of Michigan because she's Jewish. The spurious claims stem from an interview that Tlaib did with Metro Times on September 13th. Tlaib, who was born in Detroit to Palestinian immigrants and is the only Palestinian American member of Congress, argued that the charges were an unjust and heavy-handed response to peaceful civil disobedience. Tlaib pointed out that Nessel, who has been in office since January 2019, has not filed charges against protesters opposed to racism, police brutality, water shutoffs, and environmental contamination. Tlaib never once mentioned Nessel's religion or Judaism, but Metro Times pointed out in the story that Nessel is Jewish, and that appears to be the spark that led to the false claims. It should also be noted that the ACLU of Michigan criticized Nessel for charging peaceful protesters at the University of Michigan. So let's take a look, and shout out to DropSite. DropSite did a great thread on this, that this whole piece is heavily based in, even when you don't see them in the slide. I probably got it from them. So here they pulled exactly what Tlaib said in the original interview. It was very inclusive. It was diverse, very loving, Tlaib said, a Detroit Democrat says. When I visited, I remember they were talking about the Armenian genocide and what we learned from that. It was very powerful. I wish University of Michigan President Santa Ono could see his students as people that just want to save lives, no matter their faith or ethnicity. This is a move that's going to set a precedent, and it's unfortunate that a Democrat made that move, Tlaib said in an exclusive interview with Metro Times on Friday. You would expect that from a Republican, but not a Democrat, and it's really unfortunate. I don't know what Democrat party she thinks she belongs to, but okay. Yeah. In a sane world, that would be the pile-on. We've had the right to dissent, the right to protest, Tlaib says. We've done it for climate, the immigrant rights movement, for Black lives, and even around issues of injustice among water shutoffs. But it seems that the Attorney General decided if the issue was Palestine, she was going to treat it differently. And that alone speaks volumes about possible biases within the agency she runs. Okay. All right.
So far, absolutely zero evidence of anti-Semitism. Nowhere does she even imply that it's her personal bias as a Jewish person. She says bias within the agency she runs, and of course, there's a system-wide bias against Palestine and for Israel.
Right. Donald Trump has said he wants to deport pro-Palestine protesters. He's pretty goyish, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But let the dishonest pile-on begin. Senator Jeremy Moss. This is a disgusting charge of dual loyalty.
Unbelievable.
Okay, let me pause for a second as a Jewish person. Listen, man, I'm both Jewish and American. And I am telling you, as an American, if you take money from a foreign government or its emissaries and then make decisions in office that favor that entity over America, you do have dual loyalty. In fact, you don't have dual loyalty. You are loyal to the foreign country that is being paid, that is paying you through entities like APAC. If you don't want to be charged of dual loyalty, don't behave in a way that is disloyal to the United States in favor of a foreign country that's paying you through its proxies. Jews in America cannot fully uphold American ideals because we are fundamentally biased in favor of our religion over our citizenship. Representative Tlaib continues to divide us into good Jews she accepts and bad Jews. Yeah, shouldn't do any of that. Okay, so in a little bit of side drama, National Review ran this cartoon from a sports reporter for the Detroit News. I don't think it actually ran in the Detroit News. I think he did it independently. And this ran in the National Review. So you can see Tlaib and her pager explodes, the implication being she works with Hamas. So Abdullah H. Hammond, he's the mayor of, I believe, Dearborn. Absolutely disgusting. Anti-Arab bigotry and Islamophobia have become normalized in our media. The National Review ran this dangerous cartoon of Rashida Tlaib. This garbage was created by Henry Payne with the Detroit News. At what point will people call this out? Well, somebody called this out in order to create a false equivalency, none other than the AG, Dana Nessel. Rashida's religion should not be used in a cartoon to imply that she's a terrorist. It's Islamophobic and wrong. Just as Rashida should not use my religion to imply I cannot perform my job fairly as Attorney General. It's anti-Semitic and wrong. Yeah,
it's just exactly unbelievable. The same. I mean, it is just unbelievable. She never said anything like that. The author of the article mentioned it, which was stupid on their part. Very stupid on their part. Because it's not terribly shocking that it would be interpreted in bad faith like this.
Yeah.
But that is what happened. She said nothing of the kind. Absolutely nothing of the kind. And on the loyalty issue, it should be noted, just as I brought this up to Buck Angel, most of the people taking money from AIPAC are not Jews. So your loyalty is not determined by who you pray to or who you are ethnically. The loyalty in terms of, in this context, corrupt politicians depends on who pays them. Richie Torres is not a Jewish man.
We just did a piece about this. Yeah. Donald Trump just went on stage and basically did a nightclub act about his gay romp with the Adelsons through the West Bank.
Yep.
All right. Not a Jewish man.
Right.
Okay. So Jonathan Greenblatt, the paragon of virtue that runs the ADL, Governor Whitmer, when your attorney general prosecutes people for violating the law, harassing Jews, and attacking police officers, it's in the interest of public safety. When a congresswoman accuses the attorney general of prosecuting protesters simply because she's Jewish, it's bias. Saying you want to make sure that students are safe on our campuses is just words if you are not willing to use your bully pulpit to speak out unequivocally on anti-Semitism and support holding people accountable for violating the law when it affects Jews. And this is kind of promoting an article he wrote, which, according to the reporting, had a lot to do with spreading this charge in a Zionist rag called the Jewish Insider. I understand Rabbi Shmuley's sex kits actually have a Jonathan Greenblatt dildo in them.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Comes with one of those. Okay, so certainly CNN is going to get this story right. So, according to DropSite, CNN anchor Jake Tapper joined ADL head Jonathan Greenblatt, and others in blatantly mischaracterizing Rashida Tlaib's remarks, saying Tlaib accused Michigan AG Dana Nessel of bringing charges against University of Michigan campus protesters because she's Jewish. So let's take a look at the video.
Do you think Attorney General Nessel is not doing her job? Because Congresswoman Tlaib is suggesting that she shouldn't be prosecuting these individuals that Nessel says broke the law, and that she's only doing it because she's Jewish and the protesters are not. That's quite an accusation. Do you think it's true?
Like I said, Jake, I'm not going to get in the middle of this argument that they're having. I can just say this. You know, we do want to make sure that students are safe on our campuses, and we recognize that every person has the right to make their statement about how they feel about an issue, a right to speak out. And I'm going to use every lever of mine to ensure that both are true.
Yeah, so that's just a blatant lie. Just a blatant lie.
Yeah, well, she gets pressed on that. There's a longer piece, you know, but that where he presses her time and again. I think that was the second part because, again, I'm not going to get involved. What a absolutely wretched human being she is. When she runs for office, she'll run for president next time. It's got to be wretched Gretchen. That kind of has a little, that has some rhythm to it. She is just an absolutely foul person for a number of reasons, but she knows damn well what the truth of this is, and she won't say it because she's afraid to piss off one part of a constituency that she's going to try and patch together to run for president in either 4 or 8 years. That is just opportunism at the expense of truth 101. Yeah, she's just punting when she knows damn well what the truth of this is, but she won't stick up for it because she knows it might cost her some votes down the line.
Because she's in Michigan, she can't afford to alienate the Arab vote. She's a rare politician in the country who really has to think about that in her local jurisdictions.
But she also wants to run nationally.
She wants to run nationally. She can't piss off the Zionists. Right. I'm sure even within Michigan, she can't piss off the Zionists. So she's trying to walk that line. But then Jake Tapper is going to go on a panel and beat his chest about how the public has lost faith in the media.
Right.
When anyone who actually knows the facts of this understands that Jake Tapper literally just went on TV and lied about what Rashida Tlaib said, didn't even do the most basic due diligence before making that claim, or did, and then just went out and intentionally lied. Right. So this attack has been condemned by the Council on American Islamic Relations. So the article gets into that. On Monday, the Michigan chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, a Muslim advocacy group, condemned the false statements as a blatant and hateful hoax perpetrated by the right-wing outlet Jewish Insider and Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. Quote, "It is shameful that Attorney General Nessel has joined a blatantly false and hateful smear campaign against Congresswoman Tlaib because she dared to criticize her politically charged prosecutions of anti-genocide protesters, which includes members of the Jewish community," CARE Michigan Executive Director Dawood Walid said in a statement. Mischaracterizing dissent as anti-Semitic in order to stifle concerns of biased prosecutions is not only undemocratic, but also takes attention away from real anti-Semitism that takes place in society. Yes, thank you. Thank you. It's unfortunate we need a Muslim to inform people of what the real causes of anti-Semitism are, with so many of our Zionist Jewish friends misleading people about it. The charges Nessel's office filed on September 12th stem from a University of Michigan student protest encampment that was established in April. It grew to include about 60 tents and was intended to draw attention to Israel's ongoing massacre of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. The students called for a ceasefire truce and also demanded the university divest from corporations linked to Israel. Despite multiple meetings between student liaisons and the university, the encampment remained in place, leading to police action on May 21st. Most of those charged are alumni and students who refused to vacate the encampment after police ordered them to leave. 2 people were charged with trespassing, a misdemeanor punishable by up to 30 days in jail, for refusing to leave the encampment after repeated orders to vacate. An additional 7 were charged with trespassing and resisting or obstructing a police officer, a felony punishable by up to 2 years in prison. These charges are reserved for those who allegedly made physical contact with officers or obstructed arrests, Nessel said. In addition, 2 people, including a University of Michigan alumni, have been charged for separate incidents during a counter-protest on April 25th. One is charged with disturbing the peace and attempted ethnic intimidation, while the other faces charges of malicious destruction of personal property for allegedly breaking and discarding protesters' flags. Of those charged, only 3 were Muslim and some were Jewish, according to CARE Michigan. Okay, so the last time that we really saw the establishment come down on protesters this way was during the Vietnam era and the protests against the Vietnam War. We very recently had the massive Black Lives Matter protests, some of which turned to property damage, vandalism, burning down a police station. I'm not speaking against the protests. I'm laying out the facts of some of what went on. Now, what does this tell you? That they reacted so strongly to these relatively non-destructive protests, peaceful protests, no property damage really reported, nothing, no rioting, none of that, and coming down in a way that they did not on Black Lives Matter, because they knew Black Lives Matter wasn't really going to affect them. They knew that in the end, it wasn't really going to undermine the power and the financial interests of the people who actually run the country. Let them go march. Let them go march. Let them go have a big cakewalk through the middle of town. Let them yell, defund the police. The voters will never allow it. They'll never allow it. There's never going to be a defunding the police. Biden, in the middle of that, expressly ran on increasing police funding.
Right.
That's how much they gave a fuck. That is why they did not come down on BLM like this. They never saw it as a threat. If anything, if you understand how American politics work, they understood how that would play out, that it would actually, with the normie voters, only empower conservative reactionary politicians who were not in a million years going to do any of the things they were asking for. Whereas with this is a threat. This is a real threat. They're really asking for divestment in Israel from these university presidents, from these university boards. It's a real threat to money and power. This is why they're coming down on them like this. And it's not a coincidence. The last time you saw this, it was also when the military industrial complex was challenged. That is the line. That frankly, it's probably part of why Bernie never really had a foreign policy.
Yeah. Well, and that seems to be the exact point that Rashida Tlaib was making. That's why she referred to the bias of the agencies, right? I mean,
Right.
that's what she was talking about. Hey, they never cracked climate protesters' heads like this.
Right.
They never cracked BLM's heads like this. They never came down, not just in terms of like the police brutality response, because I'm sure there were instances of that at the BLM protests. You know, there tend to be when protests get rowdy. But it's not just a matter of like the police response on the streets. You have the full weight of the system bearing down on these protesters now. That's why they cover their faces when they're out there, right? And so the point she's making is that other protests around other progressive causes were not handled this way, and that reflects a bias of the agencies, a bias of the system, not a bias of a Jewish attorney general. I mean, it's so amazing. Like, she simply did not say that. You know, you sent me a tweet of I don't know if it was an article or a tweet that Ben Burgess wrote when he said, you know, this kind of reminds me of in the 2020 campaign when Warren came out and said, Bernie told me he didn't think a woman could win. And it just seems so uncharacteristic of him to say that. And there was no evidence whatsoever that he ever said that, but the media went and ran with it anyway. Similar in this case, although much worse, since we actually have her full comments on record and we can prove definitively that, in fact, she did not say anything of the kind. It's a complete fabrication, in broad daylight.
Yeah. And hey, we're post-duopoly, but credit where credit is due. She has refused to sell out her Palestinian identity to keep Pelosi and company happy. She has relentlessly spoken out against the Gaza genocide, and that's why they're smearing her like this. Unlike the rest of the squad, she stuck to her guns. She hasn't moderated her position at all, as far as I can see.
All right. The Peopled Infinite, thank you for the $5 over on YouTube. Ding, 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 peasant mind. 1 out of 5 for my Due Dissidents bingo. Waiting for Keaton's The World is Fucked. LOL, just kidding. You guys are the best. Thank you to Peopled Infinite. Appreciate that.
Listen. If you enjoy my commentary on the peasant mind, you are really going to enjoy my speech at Rage Against the War Machine.
There you go. So tune in live. Angry Bird, thanks for the 50 pounds. Let's have a cowbell for Angry Bird.
Oh, nice. That's more than $50.
That's more than $50, yeah, with the exchange rate. Absolutely. Thank you for that super sticker. It's very generous. And keep that cowbell out, Michael Castillo, for another $50. Thank you, Michael Castillo.
Thank you, man.
Is a total POS. He called for January 6 protesters to be shot. Yeah, I don't know. Is Steve Schmidt, one of them resigned over some personal thing. And by personal thing, I mean a scandal. I don't remember the details, so I don't want to get it wrong. But one of them resigned.
Did he strikes again?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. One of them resigned over something. I think it may have been him. But yes, he was with the organization for a while. Let's see here. Can you give half of this dollar to the Lincoln Project's Dick Elmer Fuddpucker Cheney's wardrobe tweak? Thank you for that, Ken Texas. Appreciate that. When Signature DD set it off from the comfort of your own home, anti-Zionist fireworks. Thank you. A peasant mind is a schooled mind. Read Deschooling Society by Ivan Illich. Thank you, Bonzo Beans. Appreciate that.
Deschooling Society?
Deschooling Society. There you go.
Who is it?
Ivan Illich. Is that the name? Is that how I say that name? I assume it is.
I'm writing it down.
All right. Very cool. Thanks, Bonzo Beans. Appreciate that. Kenman G says Russell's shave job is so good, I'll bet he uses the bowl and cream lather method. Well, I use a bowl for the cream and everything. Yeah, I just get
just a razor. Just a razor.
Just a razor. All right, there we go. Okay, let's move on here. We'll take one more from Michael Castillo. Steve Schmidt led John McCain's presidential campaign in 2008. Yes, that's correct.
Yes, he did.
That's correct. And it was he who forced Sarah Palin on that campaign. He's the one who had John McCain's ear and said, if we pick a conventional VP, we'll lose. So we have to find someone who's different. We have to find a maverick of sorts. And he found Sarah Palin. And yet he decries the rise of Trumpism. You could very intelligently argue that Sarah Palin, in my opinion, was the precursor to Trump.
Absolutely.
Making a totally ridiculous person like that, a national figure, is what sort of created the space
they could get away with it
for Trump. Right? Exactly. Yeah,
no, she was Trump's John the Baptist.
Right. Yes. Exactly. Well said. Let's see here. Stoop Sign says, Greenblatt is my rapper name because I get that green and my guns go blat. I'm a blood libel on all y'all. Then as I cry foul, playing the victim after the wounds I inflict them. ADL bitches. Thank you. Very clever. Nice workshopping there. All right. Ken Texican, that was mean cheap shot on my behalf of Elmer T. So if Elmer T. Fuddpucker is listening, I apologize. Something about this endless war thing and genocide that has kept me on edge. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. All righty. Let's move on here. Okay, so this is one of the handful of serious stories this week. Volodymyr Zelensky came to town, came to the United States, to the critical swing state of Pennsylvania, to seemingly campaign for Democrats. So now we have a foreign leader coming onto U.S. soil, yucking it up with the Democratic governor and Democratic senator. This seems like a foreign influence campaign to me. Notice they don't say anymore, oh, we have to protect against the influence of a foreign power on our electoral system. They say we have to protect against the influence of foreign adversaries. If you're an adversary, you can't meddle in our election. If you're Volodymyr Zelensky, who's already gotten $115 billion of our taxpayers' funds, he can come over here and pose for photo ops with, Democrats in swing states a month before the election. That's totally fine. I met with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Senator Bob Casey, and Congressman Matt Cartwright. I'm grateful for all their support. We agreed to work even more actively to increase our common strength, the strength of both Ukraine and America. I also want to extend my special gratitude to everyone who welcomed us in Scranton with the blue and yellow colors of our flag. So we're going to play a little bit of this video that is attached to this tweet here.
It is my honor to serve as the governor and to have you here in the home of Senator Bob Casey, our United States Senator, President Biden, and many others. We are blessed to have so many Ukrainians living here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the second largest number in the entire United States of America. And we feel a special kinship to them and to all of you in your work to defend Ukraine. We stand with you, and we look forward to the conversation here today, and we're honored that you're spending time with us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Governor, and thank you so much, senators and friends. And we are very happy to start our visit to America from the city, from your city, from Scranton, from Pennsylvania, and for us it's very important to say thank you to ordinary people. I think that today we will have such possibility from us, from all Ukrainians, to say thanks to all Americans for such support, and we're very happy that we have such partners. And of course, we understand that the United States helped us from the very beginning of full-scale war, but we still count on continuing support. We are thankful to President Biden, bipartisan support, and thanks to such plants and such workers, officers, soldiers, surgeons, for such support that you stay with us. Thank you, Governor, for such words. We're ready for conversation.
Okay, so when
all
he
right,
said
all right,
there,
all right. Can you just say you won't escape this time, Mr. Bond? Can you please say that?
Exactly, yeah. So when he said there, I want to thank the workers and at the plants. This is what he was referring to here. Ukraine's Zelensky visits Pennsylvania ammunition plant to thank workers and ask for more. He should have just asked for some right off the floor there. Hey, I have a bag with me. Can you mind I stuff some in on the way back?
Also, I understand local Dairy Queen make very good slurry.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Under tight security, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday visited a Pennsylvania ammunition factory to thank the workers who are producing one of the most critically needed munitions for his country's fight to fend off Russian ground forces. Representative Matt Cartwright, a Democrat who was among those who met with Zelensky at the Scranton Army ammunition plant, said the president had a simple message: thank you, and we need more. The Scranton plant is one of the few facilities in the country to manufacture 155 millimeter artillery shells and has increased production over the past year. Ukraine has already received more than 3 million of them from the U.S. Zelensky said he expressed his gratitude to all of the employees at the plant. And so in this tweet, he says, Scranton, Pennsylvania, I visited a plant that manufactures 155 mm artillery shells. Now, for our warriors who are defending not only our country, not only Ukraine, the plant will be ramping up production. Jobs, jobs, jobs. USA, USA. I began my visit to the United States by expressing my gratitude to all the employees at the plant and by reaching agreements to expand cooperation between Pennsylvania and our Zaporizhzhia. I'm supposed to know how to say that. I don't. Fuck it. It is in places. It's in places like this where you can truly feel that the democratic world can prevail, thanks to people like these in Ukraine, in America, and in all partner countries who work tirelessly to ensure that life is protected. Zelensky's visit kicked off a busy week in the United States. He will speak at the UN General Assembly annual gathering in New York on Tuesday. That's today, so we might have some stuff to report on that for Thursday's show. And Wednesday, and then travel to Washington for talks on Thursday with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris as she seeks to shore up support for Ukraine. The area around the ammunition plant had been sealed off since Sunday morning, with municipal garbage trucks positioned across several roadblocks and a very heavy presence of the city, regional, and state police, including troopers on horseback. As Zelensky's large motorcade made its way to the ammunition plant in the afternoon, a small contingent of supporters waving Ukrainian flags assembled nearby to show their appreciation for his visit. Keyword there, small. It's unfortunate that we need a plant like this, but it's here, and it's here to protect the world, said Vera Kohl-Krusen, a first-generation Ukrainian-American who was among those who greeted Zelensky's motorcade. And I strongly feel that way. She said many of her friends' parents have worked in the ammunition plant, and she called Zelensky's visit a wonderful thing. Larissa Salek, 60, whose parents also immigrated from Ukraine, said she was pleased Zelensky came to thank the workers. She said it upsets her that funding for Ukraine's defense has divided Americans and that even some of her friends oppose the support, saying the money should go to help Americans instead. Well, this is literally how, this war is now sold to a lot of people. I mean, Chris Hedges wrote about this in America the Farewell Tour. One of our last manufacturing bases is the military-industrial complex.
Wolf Blitzer said it in an interview. Somebody was talking about demilitarizing. He said, well, it's a lot of jobs.
It's a lot of jobs. That's right. That's right. And so the insult to come here and act as if over $100 billion out the door to an unwinnable war that should have never started in the first place is somehow a boon to the working class of America, because it gives these people in Scranton something to do with their hands for a job. Like, that's the manufacturing base we need. Almost every item in your house has a Made in China label on the back. We don't bring any of that back here, but we will build bombs here. We will build these artillery shells here that we're so proud of. And when I say proud, I mean proud. So Governor Josh Shapiro tweeted out this video: we must do our part in this fight for freedom, from the workers in Scranton who make Pennsylvania the arsenal of democracy. Talk about Orwellian speak. The arsenal of democracy, to the brave Ukrainian soldiers protecting their country. We stand with Ukraine in their just defense of their homeland in the face of Russian aggression. So here he is. I guess he was jealous of Nikki Haley's signing of the missiles in Israel. So here he is. He tweets out this video. Bob Casey and Zelensky in the background. Here he is writing his Valentine on the artillery shells. And there you have it. A very, very proud moment. Very, very proud.
Make out the moose and squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very proud of that. You just talk about the propaganda of it all. Like I said, to package this and present this as a win for workers, which is what they're doing. I mean, that was the purpose of this trip. It's to highlight, hey, you know what? This Ukraine war isn't actually a drain on American resources. This is actually
a job creator.
A job creator. That's right. We're creating jobs. This is prosperity. The arsenal of democracy. It is quite astounding that they have been able to keep this going as long as they have. Just in terms of the propaganda war, most Americans are now against continued funding for Ukraine. And now that a final red line has been drawn, the doomsday clock is getting closer to midnight. But it's just incredible to see a stunt like that. How you can come in here and after you've already taken 100 plus. It was 115 at the last, probably more than that now. It's probably an obsolete figure. It's at least $115 billion. $115 billion. The workers, we want to thank the workers at this plant. If you divide $115 billion by the number of workers at that plant, do you think they each got that big a piece of the action? I would imagine not. That's just the workers alone.
Yeah, and this has really put the lie to the idea that we cannot help Americans go to college, that we cannot provide universal health care. The money is there. The reason they don't want to give you the money is because it will empower you. They do not want an empowered public. An empowered public is not a frightened public. It's a confident public. It's a public that's going to demand things from its employers, that's going to demand things from its politicians. They want you scared and enfeebled. They want you hungry and without a doctor. That's what they want. They are showing you, oh, it's everybody gets a pony. No, it's not. Well, every Ukrainian apparently gets a pony. We're literally funding their government, not just the war. We're funding their government, which includes, guess what? Something you don't have: universal health care. Now, this is where, and we've been speaking more on this lately to the chagrin of some, this is the whole anti-woke Elon Musk grift. They know you're angry, and they do not want you to start to question the way the economy is set up. They want to direct your anger at drag queens. They want to direct your anger at gender medicine. They want to direct your anger at DEI. Don't look at the fact that as soon as they tried to unionize at an Elon plant, he broke that up. Right? They want to keep you looking at things that really do not affect them at all, just like the other side does. Just like on the other side, they want you to look, as long as you are fighting about those things, you're not saying, why can't I see a doctor? And they are using that as a stealth way to get you not to ask for more, because if you ask for more, you're a Marxist, right? You're one of the neo-Marxist drag people if you want universal health care. This is what they're doing to a lot of people. They're brainwashing them into associating these cultural grievances with demands to empower themselves and other workers. That's what I mean when I talk about a peasant mind. They're training you to fight against your own interests on behalf of people like Elon, who would not piss on you if you were on fire. I assure you.
Exactly. And before we end this segment, I just want to add as a little end note here that business is about to start booming even more. At one point in the war, Ukraine was firing between 6,000 and 8,000 of the 155 millimeter shells per day. That rate started to deplete U.S. stockpiles and drew concern that the level on hand was not enough to sustain U.S. military needs if another major conventional war broke out, such as a potential conflict over Taiwan. In response, the U.S. has invested in restarting production lines and is now manufacturing more than 40,000 rounds a month, with plans to hit 100,000 rounds per month. So they once again will try and package war, not only endless war in Ukraine, but hey,
program.
what if we start? What if there's a war over Taiwan? It's a jobs program, right? So now they attach in the mind of people who work at this plant, hey, the more hawkish the United States foreign policy, the more jobs for us, right?
Right. And hey, I have been saying this for a while. Yes, I do think that they are not controlling immigration at the border to suppress labor power. I don't think it's an accident that as soon as the union movement started to gain new life, all of a sudden you have this overwhelming amount of immigration coming up from the border. Now, again, they want to direct your attention to cat people and devouring Fluffy, rather than to look at the systemic question, which a lot of the people pointing you in that direction are complicit in, of not looking at the power that employers have over the workforce, over labor. All of this is directed at keeping you, whether it's from the so-called left or so-called right. Frankly, I think both at this point of the mainstream, quote unquote, mainstream versions are such a corrupted and just idiocracy version of both that they're almost not even worthy of that name in either case. But roughly speaking, within the context of our politics, what we give those names to, it's all aimed at disempowering you and keeping you fighting over nothing. This is why we're post-duopoly, because they're both doing that to you. There is no salvation in that direction.
Absolutely. Well said. Good point, Charles. RB Ham, the boy who cried Wolf Blitzer. Thank you. Appreciate that. Ranger Biker, thanks for the $5. Libs have accepted the proposition that Dennis the peasant railed against, expecting to wield supreme executive power just because some water retard threw a sword at you. Thank you, Ranger Biker. Appreciate that very much. Tony B for $5 says 666 up in this bitch. Let's get to 666 likes. How about that? And then we'll hit it. We're supposed to do it at 666 likes anyway. We're at 487. So hit that like button for a 666 sound drop over on YouTube. I could see it. The good part about this new system that we have is I can monitor the likes as well. So let's get there. Let's get there and make Tony B happy for that $5. Let's make it well spent. We'll get there. Cool Blue, thanks for the $4.99. Gretchen Whitmer will not be a future POTUS. Michigan, even as a top 10 populous state, has poor record with getting a candidate elected. POTUS, Gerald Ford, not elected. Good point, Cool Blue. Imad Abi Saleh, thank you for the $4.99. Says, thank you for being a voice of sanity. Appreciate that, Imad. Thank you very much. See, look, so now I know exactly how many people did what they were supposed to do and liked the stream when I told them to. We went from 488 now to 547. All right, so I know there's still almost another 1,000 in there, so let's make that happen.
All right.
Let's not let Tony B down. Mr.
We have
Ying,
the best
78.
people.
We have the best people, that's right. Mr. Ying, 78 for the 10 pounds and the super sticker. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Sparky says, make Ukraine Russia again. Don't even leave a patch called Ukraine, lest it remain a carpetbagger's money laundry, a NATO playground, and becomes BlackRock property. Thank you, Sparky. BB Baby, thanks for $5. Healthcare not included with an American flag. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Okay. It is September 24th, which means you only have 6 days left to get that National Preparedness Month deal on those solar power generators, which come with an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau. So why don't we read an ad for them before the main event, shall we?
That is mandatory equipment for the upcoming apocalypse, folks.
Absolutely.
Don't rely on the grid.
That's right. Oh, why is it not letting me hit the button? Oh, it says not available now. Yeah, there's something wrong with this. There's something wrong with this interface. It's been really buggy lately. All right.
Has it?
Well, I guess not yet. I guess we'll see if that comes up later. All right. All right. So then while we're here, you know what we'll do? If that's going to be difficult, you know who's not going to be difficult? Dan Richman, our friend from the Heeb and Goy show. So, folks, if you're looking for a break from politics, how about listening to two old dudes complain about everything from recreational nose blowing to adult milk drinkers? For more info, search for Heeb and Goy wherever you get your podcasts, or go to heebandgoy.com. You can also put in Heeb and Goy, that's A-N-D, not the ampersand, on YouTube. They have a great YouTube channel. I watch it myself. It's a really fun, easy listening podcast. Just a couple of guys talking about the ironies of everyday life. We've described it as Seinfeld without the genocidal undertones, and that is an apt description. So heebandgoy.com, that's the website where you can get the podcast feed, or you can subscribe to their YouTube channel right here. Heeb and Goy, great show. Those who were on the Patreon show yesterday afternoon got to say hello to Dan. Dan is a real one. Dan is a great guy and a great friend and supporter of the program. Okay, let's proceed here to the main event of sorts. So, as you guys may know, this weekend is a big weekend in Washington, D.C. Between the World War II Memorial and the Washington Monument, there's going to be two rallies, one on the 28th at noon, Rage Against the War Machine, where Russ is speaking, and then the following day is going to be the Rescue the Republic rally. Both events start at noon. The main organizer for both of these events is the chair of the Libertarian Party, Angela McArdle. We sat down with Angela yesterday to record an interview, which we promised would premiere as part of this live stream. And so we don't have any other thing to set this up, right? We could just let this play.
You know what I really liked about Angela? She showed up exactly when she was supposed to be there.
Exactly. Yes, right on time. That's right. Yes.
Right on time.
Yes.
We didn't have any problems with her meeting her responsibilities.
That's right. That's right. She was very good in that way. So, folks, here's our interview with Angela.
We had one time that didn't happen. That's
one time that didn't happen.
That's why these are all pre-taped now.
Well, yes. Angela McArdle, we sat down with Angela for about half an hour, and that's about the length of this interview. We have plenty of show coming up after the interview as well, so make sure you guys stick around, and we will see you in a half an hour. But right now, we are going to play our interview with Libertarian Party Chair Angela McArdle. So let's mute up full screen and get this started. Everybody, we are now joined by Angela McArdle. She's the current chair of the Libertarian Party, and she is the main organizer behind this weekend's events in Washington, D.C., Rage Against the War Machine and Rescue the Republic, on the 28th and 29th of September, this Saturday and Sunday. Angela, pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Very nice to meet you. And for anyone who doesn't know, I am a speaker on the one day, and I am press the next day. I'm going to do the Superman Clark Kent thing. I'm going to put on glasses the next day, so nobody recognizes me from the first day.
And a cape the first day.
Yes. Not all heroes wear capes. Okay, so we were talking a little before we went on. A lot of our listeners are not libertarians. They probably don't know a lot about the finer details of the Libertarian Party. I know there was kind of a civil war. You represent the winning party, shall we say, the Mises Caucus in 2022. You became the chairperson of the party after a kind of long struggle to knock out the old guard. Can you explain a little about that? Who is the Mises Caucus? What do you believe? What distinguishes you from the people you displaced, and what went down there?
Sure. I think this is probably something that your listeners are going to understand, and they'll feel the pain with me. So I'm part of the evil takeover. You know, we orchestrated a takeover of what a lot of people view as the wing of the party that is more culturally conservative. The paradox there is that we're also the wing of the party that does outreach and issue coalition work with the left. So it's very interesting, you know, it's everybody thinks, all the neoliberals hate us. That's kind of where we're at. We are not officially associated with, but big fans of the Mises Institute. We're all about Austrian economics. We are very hardcore in favor of pro-free speech. We're anti-tech censorship. We like all of that really good stuff. And, we want to be outspoken and unapologetic in our anti-war messaging and, in our, hatred of the deep state and our love for all the things that we think makes the Western world and America, so amazing. And we took over the party in 2022. I was reelected in 2024 at our national convention. And here I am today. We're known for also being the driving force behind Rage Against the War Machine on the quote unquote right side. We worked with Nick Brana and the People's Party as the dissident left. And that's a real passion point, a passion project of ours at the Libertarian Party.
All right. So that's some background. Now, you are still the chair of the party as a Mises member. We know, of course, Chase Oliver, the current presidential nominee for the Libertarian Party, is not a Mises member. And after your convention, you put out this statement regarding presidential endorsements.
People think I'm going to endorse Donald Trump. Well, I'm not. I haven't endorsed Donald Trump, but he has endorsed us. Donald Trump said he's going to put a libertarian in a cabinet position. He came out and spoke to us. He said he's a libertarian. He has basically endorsed us. And so in return, I endorse Chase Oliver as the best way to beat Joe Biden. Get in, loser. We are stopping Biden. I think we got to do everything we can to kick Joe Biden's ass And one of the best ways to do that is to support Chase Oliver and go hard in the paint for him in blue states. I know. It's like a total clown show thing. Well, I'm 100% here for that clown show.
Okay, so
you are willing to do prop comedy for the cause.
Yeah, there you go. That's commitment.
You got to do it for the cause, man.
You go on to say in that video, it was a longer video, obviously. I took that from a tweet that had some of the key parts. But you go on to say that basically your strategy is to boost Chase Oliver in blue states to try and organize a protest vote from the left for Chase Oliver against Joe Biden at the time. That was recorded the week after your convention. At the time, Joe Biden was the presumptive nominee. Now it's obviously Kamala. But it seems like your strategy there was to boost the libertarian ticket in the blue states, but stay out of Trump's way in the red states or the swing states, with the ultimate goal of defeating the Democratic ticket. Is that the strategy of the libertarians this cycle? At least what you would like it to be? And how do these rallies this weekend fit into that electoral strategy, if at all? Or are they just cause-oriented?
Well, the campaign and the National Party are two totally separate organizations.
Sure. Yep.
And I know that Chase Oliver and Mike Termott are campaigning in all 50 states. Red, blue, swing state, whatever. They're all in. I, at the National Party, have limited resources. So my goal was to focus my, outreach, whether it's billboard campaigns, geo-targeted advertisements, just connecting with voters in any way that I could in blue states and maybe swing states too, to really make the Biden-Harris ticket, now it's the Harris-Walz ticket, feel as much pain as possible. And I am still doing that. And I have to say it is immensely enjoyable. I love it. Also, you may have heard, there was a little bit of fallout in the party. It was a real black swan event to elect me and also
Right.
Chase Oliver.
Right.
Chase Oliver has been invited to speak at Rage Against the War Machine. His campaign's not going to be able to make it. I don't think it's really his style. And that's okay. Everybody has different things that they want to do and different ways that they want to message. But it was a really strange thing that happened. It took 7 rounds of voting, right? I need a way to bring the party together and have people on board and not so angry that their preferred presidential candidate didn't get elected, selected, nominated. So this was my way of doing it. It's not just about, trying to be a fixer for Trump or a spoiler for Kamala. It's like, what election strategy can I pull together that's going to help this really divided party, hold it together through the election season? And that was the best way to do it.
So when you say that you have a sort of swing state strategy to cause Kamala and Tim Walz as much pain as possible, is your theory there that because Chase Oliver is more socially liberal than the Mises wing of the party, that he will pull more votes from Kamala than from Trump?
He does. Absolutely, he does. I would say he's much more culturally on the left, and he also tends to signal more to the left than the right. And so we're just really boosting him with what he's already doing.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Russell.
All right. So AIPAC has been very openly buying politicians on both sides of the aisle.
Yes.
Now, Trump just went on stage and very remarkably described being bought. So we have some video. So we'll throw that up and talk about it.
We're going to take back our country, and we're going to make Israel great again, and we're going to make America great again. We're going to make them both great again, greater than ever before. I am the best defender you've had as president by far. I think there'd be no question. Miriam mentioned 4 or 5 of the things. Those each individual thing. Oh, her husband would drive me crazy. You have to do this. You have to do that. You don't know what I had to put up with. She was like the calming influence. I said, Sheldon, I can't do that. It's too much. He said, no. And every time I got something, he'd immediately start with something else, right? You just had a big victory. Let's celebrate. No, we have to immediately start. Let's see if we can do Golan Heights. How about Golan Heights? They've been trying to get it for 72 years. I got it done in about 15 minutes, okay? So.
So just for viewer reference, obviously Sheldon and Miriam are the Adelsons. Sheldon passed away a few years back. Miriam, his wife, is still alive, his widow now, and they have donated a lot of money to Trump's campaign. So go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, so Trump just basically went on stage and did a stand-up routine describing himself being bribed. Are there any anti-war choices in this election?
I'd say that Chase Oliver is an outspoken anti-war candidate. Absolutely. And if there are people on the left who do not want to vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump because of Israel, I would say Chase Oliver is right up there with Jill Stein on being outspoken and very anti-war.
Okay. All right. So Rage Against the War Machine, which again, I will be one of the speakers there. This has been, I remember first hearing about it when you first did it. It was always a lightning rod for controversy. You always had people saying, well, I'm not going on stage with that person. And if that person is there, I can't be there. And probably never more so than this year, because when you guys started, it was just Ukraine. Yep. And now you have Israel. So now you have people who are against the war in Ukraine, but are in some cases fanatically Zionist.
The glass parking lot crowd.
How do you make that work?
What
does that refer to? I've never heard that.
Yeah, what is that? What is
the glass parking lot crowd? The people who want to see Palestine turned into a glass parking lot. Yeah, I call them the glass parking lot people.
Is there going to be a tent for them at the event that Russell should go? The glass parking lot caucus.
We want them at the event, and let me tell you, here's why. It is really fun to go to these anti-war events and rallies and meet other people who are like-minded and outspoken on war. But I'm not holding an anti-war rally to reach out to people who agree with me. There are going to be thousands, maybe 40, 50,000 people at Rescue the Republic the next day. Most of them are very, very opposed to war in Ukraine. I would say 50% of them are very opposed to United States involvement in the war in Israel, or, to what Israel is doing in Gaza. It's a 50-50 thing. We want to get as many of those people as possible attending Rage Against the War Machine and do outreach to them, because they've not heard the message. All they hear are things, and some of them are people that I care about and I agree with in other areas, but they hear messages like, we need Israel, Israel is the one defending our freedoms in the Middle East and holding back terror. And that's all they've ever heard. And so we've got to expose them to this message. And I know, it's like, oh, I don't want to be on the stage with that conservative guy, or I don't want this. You should, because this is how we're going to reel the rest of them in. We have to have a strategy if we want to actually affect meaningful change. And believe me, we have a really good opportunity, because there are also going to be people in attendance who are connected to the Trump campaign. And maybe you think okay, well, he got on stage in front of a bunch of Israeli flags. We can never change anything. If we're able to get an influence, and I have a good relationship with the Trump campaign, if we're able to influence it just a tiny, tiny bit, let's say that we change their mind on 2 drone strikes in 4 years. Maybe we could save 800 people's lives. Does it make a difference? I think it makes a huge difference to the people whose lives we've saved. It makes an incredible difference. And if we just get a tiny little foothold in that administration, just a tiny little bit, we could totally take over the federal government in 3 or 4 administrations. The neocons, they didn't used to be in charge of anything. They were a fringe freak show think tank. And that's what did it for them. They got in, they got a little bit of help from the CIA and William F. Buckley, I think. Just a little foothold, and they took the whole thing over. So maybe we can just Uno reverse card them, get in, not be a total piece of crap, recommend hey, how about we don't murder people and bomb weddings? And maybe things will change. That's what I'm here for.
Would that strategy not apply to a Harris-Walz administration either? My question is how much more receptive, and for the record, we support neither ticket here.
Sure.
If we could vote for Jill Stein, we would. She's not on the ballot in our state. I may write her in. But that to me doesn't sound so much like an argument to support the Trump campaign on the hopes that we can, convince them to call off 2 drone strikes over the course of 4 years.
Well, that's not what I'm not here to advocate that everybody vote.
No, I understand that, but I'm just, go ahead.
So let's talk about it. it's a strange paradox. I think that on the one side, you have Harris and her regime, the deep state, who are very, very like pro blow everything up in the Middle East, like export democracy at the end of a tank. And all of their supporters, well, not all, a good chunk of their supporters are very vocally anti-war. There are people who will fall in line and begrudgingly, they'll hold their nose and they'll vote Kamala Harris because they're like, oh, I hate Donald Trump. I hate capitalism. I hate this and that. That's how it breaks down. And on the other side of the ticket, you have Donald Trump, who's actually been on the record criticizing Netanyahu, right? And who is very anti-deep state right now. And he may not fully understand what that means, but in his mind, he's anti-deep state because they just tried to murder him twice. All of his supporters are like glass parking lot people. It's a strange paradox. They're totally mismatched. But I think that Donald Trump is going to be more open to those ideas because it's like, hey, I'm the one who's saying, don't murder people. Remember when people tried to murder you? That sucked. That's happening over in the Middle East. He just seems more open. He just seems more open to ideas and more of an outsider, whereas Kamala is like a mouthpiece for the deep state, hardcore ideologue. She will do whatever those freaking swamp creatures, Pentagon people tell her to do.
Okay, but I mean, we just showed the clip of Donald Trump basically saying he'll do whatever Miriam Adelson tells him to do and that he would do whatever Sheldon Adelson told him to do. So I guess my question is, look, I was very supportive of the first Rage Against the War Machine rally. Russell is obviously speaking at this one, so we're not here to trash the event, obviously. Russell wouldn't be going to D.C. and speaking there if that's what we were planning to do. But it does seem like what you're saying is that electing Trump is a prerequisite for enacting this kind of change. That's what it seems like.
I don't think it's a prerequisite. I think it's a better chance than the other, but it's not a prerequisite.
Okay.
You've got to have like multiple strategies and people attacking from different angles. And I just am representing one way to do it.
All right. So it sounds like you're kind of presenting the argument a lot of people are making about at least the Rescue the Republic side of this in reverse. A lot of people are seeing it as essentially a Trump event, as a stealth way to draw anti-war people into supporting Trump. And one of the reasons they feel that way is the website, which we have that here. So there is an image there of Trump leading people across the Potomac, right?
Is that Washington crosses the Delaware or whatever?
That is Washington crosses the Delaware.
Delaware.
It is Lady Liberty leading the charge. He is in the boat. It is Lady Liberty.
Yeah, I mean, he's at the front of the boat.
Well, he was rumored to be. He was rumored to have
okay.
to be a speaker, and I don't think that's going to happen right now since people keep trying to kill him when he goes in public. But he was rumored to have been in attendance.
All right.
Okay. So you're saying they worked up this graphic in the assumption / hope that Trump would be a speaker?
Yeah, he was coming unofficially, and then, understandable. We don't want anyone being we don't want any assassination attempts at our event.
Was Elon Musk going to be there?
I didn't have any confirmation from him.
Okay. So iconography like that, and I know that this isn't, I mean, you have two partners on this event, right? This is not exclusively your event.
It's not just me, yeah.
It does convey the impression that this is a Trump rally, that essentially it's a Trump rally. And doesn't that, because it sounds like glass parking lot, it doesn't sound like you support the war in Gaza, in addition to the war in Ukraine. But doesn't it give the impression that the anti-war position is a Trump position? And isn't that going to scare off a lot of the people that it sounds like you're really interested in coalition building? We listened to the other night, you had a talk with a lot of the participants. Our friend Jimmy was on that. And things were about to kind of get a little tense with him and Weinstein. And we noticed that you jumped right in there. You did not want this whole thing over Israel to derail the coming together. It seems like that's your main focus, bring everybody together.
I do want to bring people together. I want to bring people together on areas of agreement. I want to win people over on other areas where we don't agree. I just think that if anti-war is your most important issue, it behooves you to try to persuade people and not just shout them down as like blood-sucking Zionists. And I mean, there are some really horrific people who, you know, want to see some horrific things happen to the people in Palestine. That is not what I'm about. I want to persuade as many people as possible. I think that is the right thing to do. It's the smart move strategically, is we got to win them over.
Okay. All right. So now, have you gotten pushback from some of the because it sounds like you're pretty strongly against the war in Gaza. Have you gotten pushback from any of the people that you're working on this with?
No, actually. No, I have not. I have not gotten any pushback. I think people understand that my approach is very unifying. And like, I don't do the hard sell with people. I don't browbeat them. I do things like, I try to give everybody a Scott Horton book, you know, like I try to do things like that. I'm like, let me give you this. Oh, did you know that they also killed Justin Amash's baby cousin, George? Here's a photo of it. Oh, but we could stop that. You know, like things like that, you know, like I try to hit them with like a gift and then like emotional appeal wrapped up with facts, that kind of stuff. And people tend to receive it really well. I think they also believe that I'm sincere. Like I take a lot of great risks to do this too. People are flipping out. I've always got haters in the Libertarian Party who are like, you can't work with leftists. You can't work with communists. And I'm like, you are literally a neoliberal shilling for the federal government to send money to Ukraine. I will work why is it so much easier for me to work with literal communists than some of the members of my own party? It's very fascinating. Probably because the communists are ironically not feds and some of the LP members are. But it's just like people see me take risks like that and try to reach out and work with people who are different. And I think that they know I'm sincere. And so like the good people don't want to give me a hard time.
All right. So it sounds like it doesn't surprise me that you're working with the communists, because the communists were among the people in our audience who were able to give us some insight into the Mises caucus. They were very aware of you and the caucus and what you guys do. What can we really do to affect the deep state and this power structure? And I must ask, with Donald Trump, especially given that you're coming from a party and a caucus that is famously anti-state, is Trump really an accelerationist tool? Is it really, well, Trump is just going to fuck it up so bad that it'll collapse the state? Like, is that part of the thinking?
I don't know if it'll collapse the whole thing. I think it's going to collapse. It might be a domino effect. I don't think it'll be the whole thing. You know, he's promised us that he'd abolish the Department of Education. He's made us a handful of promises. If he just sticks on one, it'll be the biggest libertarian advancement at the federal level that's ever happened. All it takes is one. If he'll free Ross Ulbricht, our political prisoner, the whole thing will be worth it, right? How do we affect change? Like, you have to get a position and leverage it to the maximum, fullest extent possible. I took a lot of heat for meeting with him at Mar-a-Lago, talking to him. When I went down there, I had two asks, just two. And it didn't have anything to do like immediately with the party. I mean, he wanted to speak at our convention. I was like, can you please free Ross Ulbricht? Picture of his mother. Can you please free Julian Assange? And Ross Ulbricht was a yes, and Julian Assange was a maybe. And I sat there and had an argument with people at the, not an argument, a debate with people at the table around him about whether or not Julian Assange would be freed, should be free. And I was surprised by the people who advocated on his behalf and said, yes, you need to free him. And it was like a maybe, you know. And then we had him at the convention, and he said, I set him up with an interview with Tim Pool, and Tim Pool asked him, he pressed him on it, but in a respectful way, like, will you free Julian Assange? And he was like, I'm thinking about it. I'm considering it. 2 weeks later, Biden finally, the DOJ finally lets him go after tweeting clips of our national convention. The Harris-Biden is watching. They know which way the swing vote is going right now. And they're trying to catch up. So I was like, this is amazing. Having Julian Assange freed as a political tactic, like, okay, free everyone to get our votes. Like, that's a great thing that's happening. So, we just got to keep on doing stuff like that.
Did you invite Jill Stein?
Yes, I did. I have not heard back from Jill. I would love Jill to speak at Rage Against the War Machine again. I also invited Dennis Kucinich and Colonel Ann Wright. I know that Ann is not going to be able to make it. I think she had a prior commitment. But I'm hoping, that there's still a chance that Dennis can make it. We did also invite Cornel West. It is election season, and so, like, I get, like, you're campaigning, especially Dennis being in Ohio, which is a swing state.
Right. So you're talking about, those were invitees to Rage Against War, right?
Yes.
And then because Rescue the Republic seems broader in terms of the causes that it's advocating for, and obviously the framing of that is that it's to restore certain values that the site describes as Western values that have sort of been degraded over the past several years, and so because of the sort of broadness of that, I would say. It wouldn't surprise me if someone like Jill Stein wouldn't go there, but you're saying she was invited to Rage Against War.
Yeah,
right.
She was invited to Rage Against the War Machine.
I'm sorry.
I also invited her to our national convention since there were so many presidential candidates converging. Again, she was collecting signatures to get on the ballot in New York, which is an insurmountable task.
Right. So I guess my question would be, what would be the overarching theme of Rescue the Republic? Obviously, Russ is speaking at Rage Against the War Machine. That's pretty self-explanatory. In terms of Rescue the Republic, what would you say is the sort of thematic sort of glue to bind together all the speakers and theoretically the audience members as well?
Sure. I mean, there are 8 pillars, right? It's anti-censorship. It's pro-medical freedom. It's pro-free speech. It's pro-family sovereignty. It is what we think of as Western values. The way that I put it is, it's like the parable of 2 wolves inside you. The West has 2 wolves fighting. One is pro-free speech. One is consent of the governed. One is that same one is like pro-medical freedom. And the other wolf, what is it? Wars for empire, the totalitarianism, censorship and surveillance. Which wolf wins? Well, the one you feed. And we want to feed the good one. And that's what Rescue the Republic is about. And we made it, like, I wanted all of the pillars of that movement to be libertarian, things that I could show libertarians, people in my party, and be like, I'm building this thing. And like, you're going to agree with probably all 8 of them. And if not, 7 out of 8, right? Like, you can be on board with it. I'm doing my duty as like chair of a political party, but it's also broad enough that people from the dissident left, they could agree with it too. Some right wingers, they'll agree with it, maybe not neocons, but that's okay. Look, we're trying to rescue it from them, not bring them along.
All right.
Yeah. So if I could just interject one thing. So
go
I
ahead.
guess like one of the sort of inconsistencies, and this isn't an inconsistency for you, as you've made pretty clear your stance on Israel, Gaza, and Russia, Ukraine, and it seems like you're more or less where we are on that. But in terms of the framing of the sort of restoring of Western values and to sort of make sure that the West sort of continues to stand for the kind of liberalism, broadly speaking, that it's known to represent, the Russia-Ukraine war, I think we would all agree here, and I would assume, looking at the guest list here, at the speaker list, almost everyone on that stage for Rescue the Republic would agree that the Russia-Ukraine war was really instigated by the West and NATO and the sort of encroachment of Western values into the East, which then prompts a provoked response by the Russians. But then on the Israel-Gaza front, I think a lot of people on this speaker list are pro-Israel because they see Israel as a beacon of Western values.
Yes,
right?
I think that's
and
right.
so there seems to be an inconsistency there. Like I said, you're not responsible for reconciling that. That's a question I would ask, Tulsi Gabbard, for example, not necessarily you. But it is just an observation that I had, and I would like to maybe get your opinion on that. Not that you have to speak for these people, obviously.
I want to bring them all the way there. I want to close those gaps. I think it's really important that we do. If someone says that they're on board with ending forever wars, I say, yes, that's awesome. Now, let's actually do it. And that means we should stop funding war in the Middle East. And, people will be like, oh, yes. And I'll be like, okay, great. And that also includes foreign aid to Israel. And that's where people are like, we gotta help them along.
So who on the stage is going to help them along? I mean, we got some people there. Obviously, our friend Jimmy is an anti-Zionist guy. Yeah, I mean, I just hope that that voice is heard there, because the speaker list does seem lopsided in favor of people who have that blind spot.
But I don't think it's everyone. I don't know particularly the foreign policy of Russell Brand, Rob Schneider, Corey DeAngelis, Zuby. Those are the three more libertarian. Sure. We do have some people up there who are not.
Schneider is Zionist, from what I understand.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but yeah, we'll move them along.
So, what is your real hope for this weekend, and what you want to see people take away from it?
This is a unity movement. We need people to unify on the issues that they agree on. And Saturday, I want to use that as an opportunity to make more people agree on the anti-war position. We need to win people over to our sides. We need them to understand that the United States is not doing anyone any favors by funding war between Israel and Palestine. Lots and lots of innocent people are dying, women and children, Christians, people of all different backgrounds. It's going to be an explosive thing eventually. It is things like October 7th are going to happen over and over again unless we give these people some breathing room and stop massacring them. And same goes for, Ukraine and Russia. We need to stop furthering that conflict and enabling it. There are thousands and thousands of innocent lives that have been lost, people pushed into conscription, basically enslaved to fight in a war that they don't agree with, that have nothing to do with. They just want to be at home with their families and loved ones. They don't deserve to go to the front lines to fight in someone's corrupt war. And so there we are. That's Rage Against the War Machine. I'm super excited to be hosting it again. Nick Brana, the co-organizer, will also be there with me. And, we're ready to rage.
All right. Cool.
All righty. Well, the two events this weekend are Rage Against the War Machine on the 28th, that's Saturday, and Rescue the Republic on the 29th. You can go to jointheresistance.org for information on those events. Those are at the Washington Monument. So between the World War II Memorial and the Washington Monument. Sunday starts at noon. I don't have Saturday start time in front of me. I apologize about that. So both events start at noon. Okay. Beautiful. All right, Angela, any more plugs you want to get in where people can find you, follow you, and keep up to date on your work?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Angela4LNC Chair. If you like the work I do, you can support me on Patreon, Substack, and Locals. You can check out the Libertarian Party at lp.org.
All right. Beautiful. Russ will see you in person this weekend, and I will be watching remotely from the home office here. Thank you so much for joining. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
All right, we are back live. So you just got to unmute your microphone. So for those who joined in progress and thought that was live, we apologize. Just instantly our wardrobes changed. Boom, yes. Like a flash before your eyes. Yes. So
yeah, we have our own dressers.
Exactly. Yes. So that was our interview with Angela McArdle. We thank her for making time for us. One of the questions that I posed was, if the goal under Trump is to negotiate for such a minor concession as a couple of aborted drone strikes. Could you not make that case in Kamala's direction too? Like, for example, you could reasonably say that the reason as much aid has reached Gaza as has reached Gaza is because of the pressure here. Like Biden put some pressure on Netanyahu to let a few more aid trucks go through than would have without that pressure. Could you not then say that, well, Biden is pressurable and therefore Harris is pressurable? And of course, we would not say that the fact that Biden could be pressured into letting a few aid trucks in is reason to support Joe Biden for president. So that was kind of the parallel. Like, I think that was setting the standards. I think if your standards are that low, you could make the argument for either major candidate. The reason we're post-duopoly is because our standards are higher. But what I will say is that, Angela was not, like, Angela's answer on Israel was, well, support Chase Oliver, not Trump. Right. So, she wasn't there to shill for Trump in the interview. They obviously have their lesser evil pick. They have their strategy. They're a small party trying to get a seat at the table. And so I understand that aim. Obviously, I'm not fully on board with the conclusion that they draw. But I thought she gave a very fair interview with very fair and honest answers about where they're coming from. And when pressed on matters of war and peace, she tended to defect to, well, support Chase Oliver if you need an anti-war candidate, which is their party's nominee. So, overall, I appreciate her joining, and, I understand where she's coming from. I'm not thoroughly on board, but I do understand where she's coming from.
Well, it seems like a lot of what they're doing is what some people have over the years suggested the Green Party do, kind of play an inside-outside game where you can actually get inside the tent while exerting pressure from outside the tent. I understand as a small party, if you actually want to leverage your party into some kind of political impact, why you would take that path. I just personally don't believe you are going to have any meaningful impact on this tremendous beast. I think we need to unite in trying to take down the beast, rather than to try to placate it or work with it or pat it on the nose and get it to not order a couple of drone strikes. But clearly with Angela, she's calling the Zionist glass parking lot people. She's not on their side. In terms of coalition building, I'm sympathetic. I just had a little bit of an exchange on X about the pile-on when Jill Stein released that statement under pressure, presumably. I didn't agree with her statement, but I must say, because of the vicious algorithms that we have these conversations within, which favor chest beating and high dudgeon and outrage as the default pose and way of expressing oneself, how on earth are you ever going to have any power? If you're never going to get a coalition that agrees on everything. That's never going to happen. So if it's all about demonstrating purity and virtue and correct think, okay, well, I mean, that's good for one person, Elon. He needs engagement on X. The advertisers left. It's very good for him. It's not very good for a movement. So I'm not quick to dismiss the idea that, well, hey, you got to get people in the tent so you can persuade them. And I don't feel she's being dishonest about that. She was very frank about her anti-Zionist position. I think you also have to consider that for a lot of these people, there's a business incentive to the position that they have. And at that point, you're not even dealing with honest ideological disagreement. You're dealing with audience capture and a need to get more gigs that are controlled by Zionists, where if you really take an anti-Zionist stance, you're not going to get booked for certain speaking gigs. We talked about with Kim about this a little bit. And I certainly think there are some people represented at Rescue the Republic who are coming from that position, where there is a financial reason that they would never publicly declare themselves to be pro-Palestinian or declare what's going on in Gaza as a genocide. A lot of these people, the best you'll get from them, because they don't want to alienate that faction, is it's a tragedy for both people.
Right. And, actually, what I will say too is, because I looked this up after, because when she told this to us, I wasn't sure which way to take it. When she said that, Chase Oliver is on the level of Jill Stein in terms of his outspokenness against the Israel-Gaza war. Coming from not that I don't trust her as a person, but coming from a libertarian, that could mean the soft opposition, which is, well, it's not our business. We shouldn't be involved.
The Matt Walsh defense.
Yeah. Exactly. But to his credit and to Angela's credit, because she was being honest with us about this, he has called it a genocide and has hardly gotten any press out of it. Now, I think part of the reason he hasn't gotten much press out of it could be that the party leadership is clearly trying to steer a certain outcome. Right, which could de-amplify his message, because they obviously want to stop the Democrats, which could only mean in a zero-sum game to get Trump across the finish line. So I think Chase Oliver's message hasn't gotten out there as much as maybe it could have, were the party politics different. But he actually has expressed outrage over this, the way that we have and the way that Jill Stein has, as far as I could see. Like I said, I looked into this last night after we got off the air. So, look, I mean, I like where she's coming from on that, and I understand what she's trying to do. And look, we're all for participating and grabbing the microphone. That's why Russell is speaking. Sure. Like, you don't turn down a microphone. You don't turn down an opportunity to engage. And so that's why ultimately, I mean, they got a big stage there with thousands of people showing up. You take the gig, you say your piece. That's what it's all about, right?
Of course. What do you just talk to people who you already won over?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's why I'm speaking.
Right.
Because and the event that I'm speaking at is explicitly labeled as being against what's going on in Gaza. Explicitly. So yeah, no, I relish the opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity to speak at an event like that. And I just want to say before we leave it, because it came up a little bit here, and I've seen people question us here and there about Jimmy's position. Listen, they did what show was that on? So people can look that up if they want to. What was that? The panel discussion with Jimmy and Weinstein.
It was just the Spaces event.
So Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, it was a Spaces event. You just have to search. I don't know how do you find a Spaces event after the fact. Spaces, Weinstein, McArdle. Like if you put the keywords in, I'm sure you could find it.
Yeah, people seem to be under the misimpression, and this happens a lot with Jimmy, that they think that he's MAGA or something. Listen, Jimmy's very clear with his words. If he wanted to endorse Donald Trump, believe me, you'd know about it. He was pressed in that conversation on what it would take for him to endorse Trump, and he said in no uncertain terms, well, genocide's a red line for me, and I'm not going to support that. So he's been pretty clear. So whatever impression you might have, he was asked in an environment where the easiest thing to do would have been to say, yeah, no, I'm thinking about it.
Right.
He didn't go there. So that's your answer.
All right. Let's take some super chats and Rumble rants here. Mark P. Thicko, thank you for, what is that, $10 it looks like? 10 American dollars, 100 South Korean dollars, whatever they are there. I don't know what that stands for, but thank you. I don't like when people like Dick Cheney to Darth Vader I don't like when people liken Dick Cheney to Darth Vader, because there's good in Vader. A conflict. Love your show, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Artillery shells are too low tech for corporations to get ludicrous profits like they do with boondoggles such as the F-35. That Scranton plant is run by the Army rather than a corporation. Ah, interesting. Okay, thank you, Sparky. Interesting insight. Sparky, thanks for the $2. Correction, like they do with boondoggles. Gotcha. Sparky, thanks for the $2. Angela is Chase Oliver a Fed. Well, she was not live, but she did say, it's funny because as soon as I saw that super chat come in before that part of the interview came up, where she said, part of the reason I get along well with communists is because they're not feds, unlike some libertarians. So who knows if that was who she was referring to there. We do not know. Sparky, thanks for another $5. Make Israel Syria again in those Ottoman Empire days. Levant Jews got along fine with their neighbors, whether Muslim, Christian, or otherwise. One of Sparky's greatest hits. Sparky also says Trump's only as good as the last person he spoke with. Unfortunately, he surrounds himself with warmongering assholes. Yes, that's true. Thank you, Sparky. James 1, everyone says they are for no war post-note challenge. Leave one everywhere you go, in the store, bus stop, everywhere. Tell everyone to do the same thing. Promote it worldwide. The post-note challenge. No war post-note challenge. Thank you for that. Dodger 12. So when is Putin coming to stump for Trump? Russia for Republicans. Russia, Russia, Russia. Shameless Shapiro. What a putz. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, this is why, if you notice, and I made this point when we did the segment, they don't lament foreign interference as a rule anymore. It's foreign interference by our adversaries. That's what is out of bounds.
Yeah.
If you're an ally, you can interfere in our elections all you want.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did we hit 666 likes? We'll do it for old times.
Oh yeah,
sake.
we did it. Yeah,
we did it for old times' sake.
Beautiful.
Number 2, man. We're going to the concert. Well, I'm going.
There you go. Oh yeah, so
me
that's before
me and
election,
Dan, baby. It's like right before election.
Russ and the Motley Jew. Sparky, break it off in BlackRock. Make Ukraine Russia again. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Stoop sign. Thanks for the $2. I want to see Greens and Libertarians win states. Vermont and New Hampshire should 69 electoral wins. They're already 69ing at the map. Yes, that's true. You can't unsee it. No, you can't unsee it. You can unremember it. But sounds like you don't want to. 69 against the wars, tickle Maine's asshole. There you go. Yeah, like that. There you go. You have a future in geography, penthouse letters, right? Can we get Daryl Cooper on the Rescue the Republic poster boat? Just busting balls. Yeah.
That would be really funny.
That would be funny. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh, we should promote my tour. I forgot to promote my tour.
Oh yeah. All right, we can do that. Just let me do the patron scroll now while we're paused, and then we'll promote the tour after the next segment, because I have the patron scroll right here, right? Yeah, we got to do that. And then we got a couple more pieces, everybody, so stay where you are. And folks, Russell's walking tour is being live streamed for exclusively. So if you would like to watch Russell's walking tour and get access to all kinds of members-only perks, you can do so by going to patreon.com/DoDissidents and becoming a member for as little as $5 a month. You get your name on the show scroll here. You also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As, which are every Sunday night on Rumble. You also get access to 2 supporter streams per month, as well as access to special events, the film club screenings, the walking tours, our live shows. We did 2 live shows in New York City in a theater. Those are all available to watch. So not only do you get access to special streams, but you get access to a back catalog of subscriber-exclusive content there by becoming a member at Patreon, Substack at dodissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals, dodissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble now, you can hit that join button underneath the video player and join our locals community. One cool perk of locals is because they have live streaming technology, these live streams are also streamed to locals with a members only private chat. So that is a fun feature as well. So that's dodissidents.locals.com. Censorship is really ratcheting up, as you've seen recently. A couple of peers in our space, DD Geopolitics and Mark Sloboda, recently had their YouTube channels just whacked without warning, without much explanation. And so what allows us to do the show are the people whose names are on the scroll right here. You guys are the backbone of the operation, and it is increasingly important that we build our subscriber base, because the censorship will only get worse from here on out, and this is how we censor-proof our operation. So if you can join for as little as $5 a month, it is super helpful in keeping us able to do the show. Yes, It's existential in that respect. So dudissidents.locals.com.
It is like there's some Sartre shit, motherfuckers.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes, we are not bluffing. We're not exaggerating. So if you could join our locals, also the cool thing about locals and Substack is their free speech platforms, which are cancel proof. So dudissidents.locals.com, or if you're watching on Rumble, hit that join button underneath the video player to help keep this operation afloat. Thank you very much. You guys are the backbone of the program. Okay. We are going to move right along here.
Tour.
Yeah, okay, fine. We can do that.
All right. So I am doing a walking tour coming out of retirement for 2 nights only. Weird, New York. This is my tour I developed in answer to ghost tours. I didn't like doing ghost tours because it's all lies. And I do actually believe in ghosts, but I'm just telling you, if you take these ghost tours in New York, they just add ghost to a history tour and call it a ghost tour. But I am into weird, fun facts and tales of the macabre. So I created my own tour. It's going to be going the 25th and the 26th at 7 o'clock, starting at the Arch in Washington Square Park. I'm going to take you to a bunch of places, including the site of a very famous Weather Underground bombing in 1970, the site of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, and an MK Ultra safe house where they used to dose unsuspecting village residents very often under the ministrations of a prostitute and film it through a two-way mirror. And the tour ends 3 blocks from Bleecker Street Pizza with what I consider the best slice in New York, the Nona slice.
All right, so that's dudissidents.com/tour, October 25th and 26th. 2 nights only, just in time for Halloween. All right, folks, we are going to move right along here. So this is a pretty scary story. U.S. is sending more troops to the Middle East as violence rises between Israel and Hezbollah. Now, just as they frame the Gaza war, the Israel-Hamas war, it's really a war on Gaza more than a war on Hamas. Same thing here. This is a war on Lebanon, and civilian casualties are already at a just obscene and intolerable level, which we will get into here. The U.S. is sending a small number of additional troops to the Middle East in response to a sharp spike in violence between Israel and Hezbollah forces in Lebanon that has raised the risk of a greater regional war, the Pentagon said on Monday. Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder would provide no details on how many additional forces or what they would be tasked to do. The U.S. currently has about 40,000 troops in the region. It's an amazing number when you consider we pulled out of Afghanistan, right? The Iraq war is over. Still 40,000 there. On Monday, the aircraft carrier USS Harry Truman, 2 Navy destroyers, and a cruiser set sail from Norfolk, Virginia, headed to the 6th Fleet area in Europe on a regularly scheduled deployment. The ship's departure opens up the possibility that the U.S. could keep both the Truman and the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, which is in the Arabian Gulf, in the region in case more violence breaks out. Quote, in light of increased tension in the Middle East and out of an abundance of caution, we are sending a small number of additional U.S. military personnel forward to augment our forces that are already in the region, Ryder said. But for operational security reasons, I'm not going to comment or provide specifics. The new developments came after significant
Deployments.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Deployments.
Oh, sorry. The new deployments come after significant strikes by Israeli forces against targets inside Lebanon that have killed hundreds, and as Israel is preparing to conduct further operations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday warned Lebanese civilians in a videotaped message to evacuate their homes ahead of a widening air campaign. He spoke as Israeli warplanes continued to strike alleged Hezbollah targets in southern and eastern Lebanon. Here is that video.
Message for the people of Lebanon. Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah. For too long, Hezbollah has been using you as human shields. It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens. To defend our people against Hezbollah strikes, we must take out those weapons. Now, starting this morning, the IDF has warned you to get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously. Don't let Hezbollah endanger your lives and the lives of your loved ones. Don't let Hezbollah endanger Lebanon. Please, get out of harm's way now. Once our operation is finished, you can come back safely to your homes.
So I actually got chills when I saw that video yesterday because don't forget, I didn't see this as part of a prepared segment that just came across my Twitter scroll. And I watched it and I literally got a chill because what does that sound like? It sounds exactly like what they said about Gaza. Hey, we're not at war with the Palestinian people. This is about targeting Hamas. Don't let them put your life in danger by hiding behind you. What happens after a message like that? Hey, we need you to evacuate. We'll let you know when it's safe to return to your homes. Parentheses, if your home is still there. They don't add that part. What do you know you're in for when you see a video message like that? Well, this is what you're in for. Israeli strikes kill at least 492 in Lebanon, including at least 38 children and 58 women. This is from antiwar.com, great indie website written by Dave DeCamp, this article. Israel dramatically escalated its military operations in Lebanon on Monday, launching strikes against residential areas across the south and east of the country, killing hundreds of people. According to Lebanon's health minister, at least 492 people were killed in the Israeli strikes, including 38 children and 58 women, and another 1,645 were wounded. Al-Mayadeen reported that it's estimated that Israeli warplanes launched 1,100 airstrikes. Israel also launched an airstrike in Beirut and said it targeted Ali Karaki, the head of Hezbollah's southern command. But Hezbollah said Karaki was fine and, God willing, is in full health and wellness, and that he was transported to a safe area. Tens of thousands of residents of southern Lebanon fled the Israeli bombardment and headed north. The Israeli military threatened that it would expand strikes to eastern Lebanon's Bekaa Valley and told residents to leave. Later in the day, it began bombing the area. So some advance notice that they gave, not even 24 hours. They put a video message up in the morning, and by the afternoon, the bombs were already raining. That's how much they care whether the civilians can get to safety. To justify its bombing of civilian homes in Lebanon, the Israeli military claimed Hezbollah was storing large missiles and missile launchers inside houses. Israel offered no evidence for the claim, besides animated videos and overhead footage that purported to show airstrikes on homes in Lebanon, but it was unclear. So talk about deja vu, just like they had that AI rendering of the tunnels underneath Gaza City. They put out the same thing here as evidence.
Village in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah stores cruise missiles, rockets, launchers, and UAVs inside civilian homes, hidden behind the Lebanese population living in the village. We are monitoring these activities, locating the weapons, and destroying them with precise intelligence-based strikes. I want to show you an example of a strike carried out a few weeks ago. Here we are exposing Hezbollah's method of hiding a cruise missile inside a home. The terrorists create a designated opening for the missile launch.
Okay, notice, and then they go to the actual launch, which I won't show you. I don't know if we're allowed to show an actual strike on YouTube, but notice the rendering is of a home in the middle of the woods with no civilians around. Right, like the rendering is, oh, look at this compound surrounded by nothingness, so that we don't accidentally kill 38 children and 58 women. You talk about Orwellian, where computer generated cartoons pass as actual evidence. This would be like if I said, "Hey, toys can talk," and I showed you a scene from Toy Story to prove that toys can talk. Like you created this digitally. That's not an AI rendering of the thing you say is there, is not evidence that the thing you say is there. But the same exact thing We get a video warning from Netanyahu. We don't mean civilians harm. We only mean combatants harm. Followed by by airstrikes that kill way too many non-combatants. Followed by an AI rendering of evidence. Hey, this is why we had to do what we're doing. It's the same thing, only now in Lebanon. So not only has Joe Biden failed to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, he's failed to accomplish their other said objective, which is to prevent a broader and wider regional war. Because here we go again. On Sunday, Sheikh Naim Qassem, the deputy leader of Hezbollah, said the group had entered a new phase of fighting with Israel, but he also said Hezbollah would end its attacks on northern Israel if there were a ceasefire in Gaza. Instead of pushing for a ceasefire in Gaza, the U.S. is backing Israel's latest escalation in Lebanon and announced that it's deploying more troops to the region. U.S. military aid and political support have emboldened Israel to escalate in Lebanon and elsewhere in the region. That's obviously Dave's opinion, but that is based in too many facts to want to cite. So yes, obviously, a catastrophic failure in foreign policy, to put it kindly. That is to give way too many benefits of the doubt to Joe Biden. You know, there was a piece, we did this on the Patreon show yesterday. There was a piece that came out. The Wall Street Journal has, an exclusive. I don't know how exclusive it has to be. This is pretty obvious to most people who have been paying attention, but they have primary sources saying, there's no chance for a ceasefire before the end of Biden's term. And not only has he failed to secure that, but he has failed to contain the war to the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, which is horrible enough. Horrible enough. I don't even have words to describe what's going on, to be honest. At least not words I'm allowed to say here in East Berlin. But now you see this start all over again. A death toll already, 492, and that's more when you count the beep strikes that they had last week. The beeper strikes.
The pagers,
The pager shit. Yeah, I forget what they're. Yeah, pager. That's right. I was thinking beeper because it's
you're too young. You don't remember those.
Yeah, it's antiquated technology. But yeah, the pager strikes. Right. Exactly. So yeah, we're starting up all over again in Lebanon now, and so obviously more carnage and expanded war. World War III now cooking very hot on this burner here.
Yeah. This has always been the plan. And clearly, if you want to understand and be able to predict what Israel is going to do in this circumstance, look at their origin story. They always wanted all of Palestine. And from the beginning, they took most of it. The portions they didn't take have always been a thorn in their side. And they've always seen it as their birthright, right? It was as Elon Pape said, most Israelis are secular, but they all believe God gave them Israel. From the river to the sea people are the Israelis. And now that they've gone this far, the world hates them. They're committing a genocide in broad daylight. Their Hasbara is failing. For the uninitiated, that's their propaganda to the outside world. Hey, man, let's just go for it. Let's just go for it. Otherwise, we're just going to have to rip the Band-Aid off later. We're going to have this going back and forth with this indigenous population that we pretend are the aggressors for decades more. Let's just wipe them all out now. Let's just wipe them all out now while the sword is unsheathed. People already hate us. This is how much horror can people have? They're already horrified with what we're doing in Gaza. Let them be horrified with what we're doing in Lebanon. Let's get from the river to the sea done. And hey, you know, we'll do what they do. I saw this in Australia. You go to a concert in Australia, they have some Aborigine before the concert, do a little ritual. Yeah, in 100 years, we'll let a Palestinian come and all the liberals can talk about how bad they feel about what was done to the Palestinians. But we'll have it. We'll have all the land and they can go do a little dance or something. That's what they want. And they see this as their opportunity, the best opportunity they've ever had to finish this.
Right, and this is when they're at their most dangerous, because they feel like they're not going to get the goodwill back. So if you're not going to get any goodwill back in the short term, now is the time. Now may be your only chance to accomplish your military objectives. And to see this start up again, to see Netanyahu post in that video the same exact rhetoric that he said in mid-October when they were getting ready to invade Gaza. We don't mean the civilians any harm. We have to eliminate these targets. Cut to what we have now: 492 people already. And again, and they're only evidence that they are targeting combatants and not civilians, as Dave DeCamp points out in that article. And again, they just get the chills. You see the same exact thing. That's what they did in Gaza. They showed an AI rendering of a tunnel system, and that was their evidence. Now, we've since come to know a lot of those tunnels have been around since the 80s. And are no longer active. That came out in the Washington Post reporting. The tunnels under Al Shifa Hospital were not active tunnels. They were not active tunnels. So they don't feel any burden to provide actual evidence. They say whatever the hell we want. We back them up on it. We're going to reference a bombshell story in our next segment, and then we're going to do a much more thorough piece on this on Thursday because it's huge. But they just did that. It was just found that Israel was intentionally blocking humanitarian aid, right? But they get to say, no, these findings are inaccurate. We back them on that. Like, they can just claim whatever they want without consequence. And now you're seeing almost a year after 10/7, this starting again now in Lebanon. So not only is it not slowing down, it's expanding.
Right. They are seizing this opportunity. Yeah, the idea that this was going to be over, that was the wrong call. They're just going to expand this war.
Exactly. Yep. Okay, we will take some super chats and Rumble rants, and then we've got another segment for you guys. Sparky's making it rain today. Sparky's back and better than ever. Boom. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate it. Anytime someone says that Israel's our only friend in the Middle East, I can't help but think, before Israel, we had no enemies in the Middle East. U.S. missionary John Sheehan. Thank you, Sparky. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Keaton, it'd be a good idea for you to watch Judge Napolitano's show, Judging Freedom, to brush up on geopolitics and have something to talk to him about when you attend he and Gerald's get together. Yes, their get together in Kingston. I will watch some of his show. Actually, it's a good point, Sparky. I should familiarize myself more with his show. I've mostly seen him interviewed on other shows. I haven't watched much of his own show. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. Josh Woods, thanks for the $10. Sadly, pro-Zionist sentiments are even more rampant here in England due to many shoehorning Palestinians with certain corrupt brown politicians, as well as the over-influx of migrants of the same race. Thank you, Josh Woods. Daniel Hall, thanks for the $5. Angela McArdle couldn't wear the cocktail dressing clown nose for this channel. Leftoids have paraphilias too. Yes, she did the prop comedy there. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Dodger 12. It is said that Israel is the aircraft carrier of the U.S. Well, it's 70 years old. Time to retire her from the fleet. Thank you, Dodger. Appreciate that very much. Thank you guys for the donations today. Super chats and Rumble rants are super helpful. American Disaster. That's Nina. Thanks for the $2, Nina. Husband got autographed Gigi Allen. It was a sheet smear. That's good. That's a funny one.
Really?
Right.
A lot of people, I got to start really plugging that part of this tour because everyone keeps bringing that up.
Yeah, everybody's into that. Yes, you should have a Gigi Allen reenactment on the tour. Then you'd sell tickets.
I'll have to take my X-Locks before the tour.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. SB, thanks for the $5. Save the Republic sounds like IDW grift with the exception of Jimmy. You convince common people, not rich douchebags. They should be trolled, not respected. Yeah, I mean, I think she assumes a level of goodwill among some of those speakers that is not there. Not all of them, obviously. but some of them, I think for sure. There's no move in Charlie Kirk. I don't think there's any move in Jordan Peterson. And look, you could say that not everybody's reachable, but some people you bring there for the draw. I mean, Jordan Peterson's a huge name. He announces he's speaking. That gets you at least a couple thousand people in the audience, I would imagine. Maybe they're reachable. Well, so I understand, though, like, hey, we're going to cast a wide net and scoop up as many people as we can. But in terms of the speakers themselves, yes, some of those characters there, I would put very squarely in the bad faith column. And I'm not shy about saying that. A lot of people speaking there I wouldn't put in the bad faith column. We're friends with a few of the people speaking there, Jimmy, Matt Taibbi, but some of them, yeah. Some of that is, well, I should probably shut the fuck up. I can see Russell's getting nervous. Russell actually has to go there in person. I get to sit here on my computer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just reading the chat, actually.
Oh, okay. I thought Russell was giving me the look, like, hey, when are you going to shut your fucking big Jew mouth? Yeah.
No, I mean, I said that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely some people there. I feel like you have a lot of people speaking there who have been driven further and further right. And I would actually include Peterson in that because the mob came for them and they ran there for protection. And in the end, you're going to align yourself with the people who are being nice to you. Right?
Yeah, that's
the people
true.
who are supporting you, the people who are platforming you, the people who aren't trying to take away your license to practice, right?
Well,
where are you going to go?
And that's where the audience capture becomes a factor. Like for me, to me, I think the biggest example of that would be Russell Brand. Because as far as I know, Russell Brand has not spoken in favor of Israel. I would be absolutely shocked if Russell Brand is not anti-Israel. But he will just punt on it because he's been boxed into a position where the only way he can make a living is for the anti-cancel culture right-wing crowd to support him. Because he was boxed into that position by the liberals who tried to cancel him, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, I say that about Elon Musk, too. That guy was a freaking Obama person.
Right.
Here's an Obama lib. They came for him.
Right.
And that's it. Then I saw this. I've talked about this. I've seen this happen with Riley Gaines, man. Riley Gaines used to really just talk about men competing in women's sports. And that was it. And over time, who's supporting her? Who's protecting her versus the people who trapped her in a classroom for hours? And I actually saw a big change after that happened. Then she started taking up these other right-wing causes, immigration, this kind of thing. She never spoke about things like that. So, the left, or I don't want to say left, the liberals, the cancel culture mob with their charm offensive have driven more people into the arms of the right than they've managed to build as part of their so-called coalition.
Yes, I agree. Christophilakis, thanks for the $10. Mint Press said on stream yesterday that the troops being deployed are reserved to Jordan, not active combat troops. Well, yes, they're not active combat troops. More troops isn't good, but if he's correct, then it's not as bad as it could be. No, not yet, but I don't think it's a coincidence that, well, it's not, I don't think it's a coincidence. It says in ink. It's in response to escalating violence between Israel and Lebanon, which means an expanding war. And, so that's why we're sending more troops over there. At the moment, it's a just in case, but look at the track record that this administration has of keeping Israel in check and keeping the war from expanding. Right. So what if this is step 1 of 10? By step 5, it could be a very big deal. You know what I mean? That's why they're there now.
Well, that's where I think this is going.
Exactly.
I mean, really, you want to talk about some place I should have gotten to while you still could, Jordan and Egypt.
Yeah.
That's a very common tour to do, both of them in one shot, to do Egypt and Jordan, go to Petra, all that. Forget about that now.
Well, I mean, now might be the best time for a news and politics channel to go. We'll just buy you a helmet. We'll fundraise for a helmet.
Helmet and a flak jacket.
We'll raise money to buy Russell a helmet for his Jordan and Egypt tour. Yes. We can swing that. I don't know about body armor. But a helmet would do.
Maybe some plasma and an IV just in case.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if we have the funds for that, but a helmet. I mean, you'll be fine with just a helmet, I think. Yeah, get one on Amazon. Get a $30 helmet.
Yeah, you can actually.
Yeah. Susanna, thanks for the $5. Have you watched the Greenwald Finkelstein interview from yesterday? Highly recommend. No.
He just interviewed him? I didn't know.
I just interviewed him. Yeah, I do. That is on my list, though, for sure, because I did see that happened. And we have a day off tomorrow, so I'll finally have a little bit of time. Sparky, thanks for the $5. Christophilakis, so there's a response. Maybe those U.S. reservists are sent to protect the King of Jordan from his own people. Okay, let's see what we got here. Any more Rumble rants? None for the moment. 1,600 strong on the Rumble chat, 13 in the YouTube chat. Thank you all very much for being here this afternoon. All right, this will be our final segment of the day. Let's close out with one of the hits. Here's a hit for the last song. An AOC segment. Remember her? Hotspot tweets, AOC advocates for more censorship. We're going to have to figure out how we rein in the media. So, consistent with her previously stated pro-deplatforming views, here's AOC.
I think that, I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking into.
Okay.
Something we're looking into.
I
think we're going to have to update Ronald Reagan's formulation. The scariest words are "I'm here from the government," and we're here to help. I think the scariest words are "That's something we're looking into."
That's something we're looking into. Yeah, exactly. But funny timing for that video, because I did want to kind of shoehorn this story into this segment here because it just broke today. This is a report by ProPublica, which we're going to cover more thoroughly on Thursday's show for sure. Leaked documents. While Gaza starved, USAID and State Refugees Bureau came to a legally explosive conclusion. Israel had deliberately prevented food and medicine from getting in, but Blinken told Congress the exact opposite, so the arms could keep flowing. So this report shows Israel had deliberately prevented humanitarian aid from getting into Gaza, and that the Biden administration lied and said no, they didn't. So Prem Thacker tweets out, this is a huge scandal. USAID and State Department Refugee Bureau both said Israel blocked aid to Gaza, but Blinken told Congress the opposite so they wouldn't have to heed U.S. law that would force cutting off weapons to Israel, as in the Biden-Harris administration is complicit in war crimes. So this is a short piece from the ProPublica report. The U.S. government's two foremost authorities on humanitarian assistance concluded this spring that Israel had deliberately blocked deliveries of food and medicine into Gaza. Their conclusion was explosive because U.S. law requires the government to cut off weapon shipments to countries that prevent the delivery of U.S.-backed humanitarian aid. But Blinken and the administration of President Joe Biden did not accept either finding. In other words, they said, no, we're not going to trust the word of our agencies. We're going to deny that Israel deliberately blocked humanitarian aid. Why? In order to keep funding the war. Right. Because if they accepted those findings, they would have been forced to impose the ceasefire that they claim to want so much. The reason they denied the findings is so that there would be no ceasefire. Now, what am I getting at here? Well, this from the day after AOC's speech to the DNC, where AOC quite famously contended that Kamala Harris was working tirelessly for a ceasefire.
He is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
So, AOC, consistent with your anti-disinformation views, I think you should go on Instagram tonight and issue a correction, a retraction of that statement at the DNC. Otherwise, we could plausibly call for your censoring based on your spreading of disinformation, because it's been known for a long time, but this ProPublica report that just came out is cold, hard proof that not only have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris not been working tirelessly for a ceasefire, they've been going out of their way to deny the findings of their own agency for the sole purpose of preventing a ceasefire. They have been actively committed to preventing a ceasefire, not working tirelessly for a ceasefire. Now, I believe in the First Amendment. I believe AOC has the right to go on social media and lie and spread disinformation. And we have a right to go on social media, as we are right now, and debunk her. I'm not against free speech. She has the right to speak. We have the right to call her out. But if she calls for the deplatforming of people who spread such lies, perhaps she wants to issue a correction.
You have to understand where people like this are coming from. If you know libs, particularly if you know rich libs, they believe that they have the right to dictate morals, beliefs, and thought to the rest of society, whom they see as deplorables to a far greater extent than Hillary led on. They don't see half of society as deplorables. They see a good deal more as deplorables. They essentially see anyone who's not like them as deplorables. You could be if you are not an elite, the only way you can be considered a member of the human race is if they see you as a victim. You can be an elite, or you can be a victim, or you can be a deplorable. These are the categories of humanity for these people. And it's the reason they react with such fury anytime one of their social engineering projects or their ideas are rejected. And this often plays out most visibly with culture. What do you mean that you can't have children at a drag strip show? You know, this is where we see this elite belief in their right to dictate taste and culture to people explode, or when they go insane about a movie with those kinds of themes that doesn't do well. When Buzz Light with the Lightyear movie collapsed, they were furious about it because they believe it seems like a trivial matter, but it's gives you a lot of insight into how they think. Why do they care? People don't want to watch something. What do you care? Like, why is that your business? If people don't like a movie or don't like a TV show, why do they get so upset about it? Because
for the record, the Lightyear hype was a little ridiculous. It was like 3 seconds of a woman pecking another woman on the cheek.
It's completely beside the point.
Yeah.
It's completely beside the point that I'm making.
Yeah.
The reason they get so angry about it is because they believe they have the right to dictate taste to the rest of the public. Any evidence that they're not able to do that stimulates this very censorious impulse. Well, if we can't impose it one way, if we can't lead the deplorables to imbibe our values and our ideas, well, we're going to have to force them into having no other options. We're going to have to control the means of communication. And hey, I don't just want to say it's on that side. You point out, yeah, it's ridiculous. There was 2 women kissing. Well, on the other side, they're ginning that up too. And if you really empowered them, they would censor in the other direction. If you really gave the side that's fighting that, the anti-woke side, power without opposition, that's what they would do. They would censor those people. They'd be censoring the drag queens. They'd be censoring people who are advocating for those positions, which I don't believe in either. But this was almost an inevitable outgrowth of the internet and the way that it empowered free debate and free conversation. There has never been anything that has allowed people to express their beliefs and get around gatekeepers in the way that this does. Not even the imprinting press allowed such a broad scope of humanity to get around any kind of establishment block to conversation. And it was inevitable that elites on all sides of the political spectrum would wind up trying to find a way to stop it. And when you look at somebody like AOC, it's kind of creepy and dystopian because you almost still have this notion that if they're liberal left nominally in their aesthetic presentation, that's a weird thing for them to be saying. And it winds up reading very Hunger Games when you see somebody like AOC, who's, very, very hip, very young, very well presented. Yeah, no, we really have to look into that freedom of speech. It's almost more scary than when you get like the fire-breathing evangelical screaming about pornography.
Well, yeah, because like objectively, not much changes, right? And so politics is all about perspective. It's all about subjectivity. It's all about how you view reality, because when politics fails, as it has, you can't really do much to change reality, right? So all you could do is comment on it in the appropriate way. And those who don't comment on it in the appropriate way are out of bounds. And that's how you come to justify censorship.
You have to. Otherwise, you get Trump. You get Trump otherwise.
Yeah. And it's especially easy to fall into that if you're AOC, who, you come in there thinking, if we are to afford her the benefit of certain doubts, that you are actually going to make change and actually change material conditions, so to speak. Once you realize you can't do that, well, then the only game in town is to jump in with this censorship crowd, because the only politics you have are a politics of perspective. Because you don't actually get to change things. You don't actually get to influence the world in any material way, right? So it's all about how we feel about these issues, right? And to give you an example, if what I'm saying is too abstract, look at the cages on the border. There were cages when Trump was president. She goes down to the border and cries about it, right? When Biden becomes president, all of a sudden the language is no longer that they're cages, but that they are migrant detention facilities and no more photo ops. So what changed in
what happened? Where's Rachel Maddow? She cried too. She
right. The reality did not change. The reality was exactly the same. Right. All that changed was how the public is made to absorb that reality through elite channels, be it the social media feed of a celebrity politician like AOC or a celebrity news anchor like Rachel Maddow. Our perspective, the perspective of the public mind has changed, but the reality has remained the same. And especially if you go into this idealistically, as AOC has, it is important that you really get on board with the politics of subjectivity and framing, because that's all you have. That's all you have to justify where you are, because the alternative to blue pilling yourself in that way is to admit to yourself and your followers that you have failed.
Right. But it also shows you, look, I would say you scratch an AOC and underneath you have a fascist authoritarian. It's their nature. Like I don't even feel like, yes, the reason that these views are not leavened by, hey, let's give people health care, she ran into the reality of, that Nancy Pelosi is going to cut out her heart if she doesn't shut up in a satanic ritual. So she dropped that. But this basic elitism, it's core to a certain type of person on the left. It's intrinsic. She didn't become this way. She was always this way. A lot of them believe that they are better than other people. And the only reason people don't agree with them is because they're ignorant and they need to be told what to think.
Yeah, but I also think, like, at the rank and file, a lot of progressives were sucked into this. Like, if you went to a Bernie rally, it was not a PMC crowd, especially in 2016.
No.
But a lot of them, like if you join certain like Facebook groups or online chat forums and stuff like that, if you go back and you check in on those old groups that you joined 7 years ago, so many of those people are now I mean, the old Bernie 2016 for president Facebook groups are now basically Kamala groups. Like they have been absorbed into that. Even people who aren't AOC, even people who aren't careerists, who aren't celebrities, who don't have that sort of predisposition for elite discourse, right? They get sucked into that because all else fails, right? When all else fails, the only thing you have is that. And we're in a moment now where everything else has failed. And rather just admit that and take what some call a black pill. I don't consider it particularly black-pilled. But to admit that and to exit the system and say there has to be another way or there's no way at all, and to just sit with that and understand that takes a level of courage, quite frankly, that most people don't have. And I don't mean... And by courage, I don't mean heroism. I mean an ability to live with a certain despair and allow that despair to have some space in your heart and mind. It's important to be able to sit with that, because the alternative is you just become convinced that potential solutions are there when they're not there. And the same goes for people who get sucked into the Trump campaign when all else fails. Right? I don't make a big deal out of the Bernie to Trump pipeline because I sympathize with how people get sucked into that, but that is also the road to ruin. And it's born of the same the same, I don't want to say flaw in someone, but the same logical fallacy that, well, there must be some way within the system forward.
Right.
You force that into your mind. You force yourself to accept that we have to be able to influence the system in the way that we're allowed to, i.e. voting for one of the two major parties. So when all else fails, some people go to Trump. And when all else fails, some people go to Kamala. And that is ultimately a road to ruin. And the only way out of that is to first, and I think most people in our audience have already gotten here. That's why we have an audience. I suspect we wouldn't have an audience if most of our people don't already know this. But the way out of that is to first understand that both roads lead ultimately to the same hell. Yeah,
I mean, we definitely, the great bulk of our audience understands that. You do have some people who, I'm sympathetic too. Like you want to believe that there's somebody in the system who actually cares about you. There isn't. That's what George Carlin tried to tell you 30 years ago. When the system was much better than it is today.
Right, exactly, yes.
Much better than it is today. I was thinking about this yesterday. Like Gen X, there are moments in a culture when everything's kind of coming together. That doesn't mean everything's perfect. That doesn't mean there's no inequality. That doesn't mean there's no injustice. But there are moments when everything in a culture is working, just like in the life of a person. Everybody has, you have times in your life when everything's coming together. And then you have times in your life and you have times in the life of a civilization where everything's coming apart. For my generation, Gen X, we caught the end of everything coming together and the beginning of everything coming apart. We were the last generation to experience the shit kind of working. Like it kind of worked. When I went to state college, it was $687 a semester. Right. Like I wasn't unduly burdened. I was able to get my own theater as a manual laborer in Manhattan. Like there was still opportunity for a working person to get ahead in that way without having, an illustrious family or any of that behind me. At the same time, you could see shit starting to come apart too. Bill Clinton was clearly a very superficial imitation of a populist. We know now in a way that we didn't examine the way we might have then, how superficial a lot of his policy accomplishments were and how much damage they were doing in an underlying way. And then you get George Bush, you get 9/11, and you just go into the dark, bizarro universe from there. So we caught the tail end of it kind of coming together, but then we also were kind of coming of age as it started to really accelerate the coming apart of it. For people who, I don't know why anyone's surprised that a majority of Gen Z would favor socialism. I mean, why wouldn't they?
Right.
They haven't experienced. They weren't able to go get a theater with a horse and carriage driver job. They've never experienced an America where capitalism made any kind of sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And what you're saying reflects in a lot of the polls that we see, right? Boomers overwhelmingly apologize, present company excluded, of course, overwhelmingly shit opinions.
Right.
Young people overwhelmingly good opinions, and as you said, the Gen X is kind of split because they
Yeah,
came
they
up
can
right
go
at the
either
cusp
way.
where it could have gone
Right.
either way, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Duckzilla, thanks to the $4.99, was going to post something else, but apparently I'm late to finding out the word protest is censored by YouTube. Yeah, no, they are really on a tear, and it's going to get worse between now and Election Day, and my opinion, it'll get worse even after Election Day. Plan accordingly, everybody. We need everybody following our Rumble channel. That's hugely important. I mean, watch on YouTube, but you know, the Rumble subs have been growing, and we need that. So thank you, Duckzilla. Ukrainian mail order. I don't know what the rest of that screen name is, but I like it. It cut off here for the character limit. Congratulations to Zelenskyy for being elected into the Panhandling Hall of Fame. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Napolitano, pardon me, has regular guests who are not full of shit, unlike your normal CIA curated fare. It's just about in the Duran's league. You both should watch it too, rather than wasting time with CIA BS. What CIA BS do we watch? I watch Jimmy and RBN and Kit. That's who I watch basically.
I watch Sopranos reruns.
Yeah, which one of them are in the CIA? Maybe Kit. Maybe that's why he has that green screen in back of him. Maybe that's why he has the green screen set.
Yeah, we really don't like. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. When you do this as your gig, you don't have a lot of time left to watch other people's shows.
Yeah, very, very little. Yeah. Yep.
You see like you see some clips basically.
Right. Yeah, no, it's it's a lot of reading and scrolling. You know, my wife always tells me, "Why are you scrolling your phone?" I try to explain. When I scroll my phone, it's not like when you scroll your phone. You scroll your phone for leisure. I'm working when I'm scrolling my phone.
Yes.
I'm looking for stories. Yeah, exactly. Don't bother me at work.
my friend Vinny that I went up to New Hampshire to stay with last month, who's also a patron. He said, you know, you became a phone person. You look at your phone, but I understand why. It's work. You know,
work.
I mean, he knew what. Shit, man. If I didn't have this gig, my phone would sit in a drawer. I hate that fucking thing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very bad for you.
It is bad for you, but you have to do it. You got to stay up to date. Like if I wasn't a phone scroller, I would have missed that ProPublica piece. And then that AOC segment would have been, you know, a 5-minute, relatively superficial.
Oh,
segment.
I absolutely would not be on X. X
Yeah.
that is an emotional toilet bowl.
Yeah.
But so much of the political conversation goes on there. You
have no
if you're
choice.
doing this, you have to keep an eye on it.
Have no choice. That's right. Palaganda, thanks for the $4.99, says Judge Knapp's show, like yours, is amazing. Thank you very much. Debsmo, thanks for the $10 super sticker. Appreciate that. Sparky, thanks for the $5, says U.S. foreign policy is dictated by a bunch of psychopaths with the mentality of a clique of adolescent girls, except more immature and with more cry bullying. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that. Let's go here. Furrowsqueen Fire Dancer says to lighten the mood, and I'm sorry to make a tragedy into something else, but it's my birthday, so I'm getting a countdown of how many days left till the anniversary, till I get older. Save the sausages. Yes, Keir Starmer said save the sausages instead of save the hostages. That's a gaffe that's going on. Happy birthday, Furrowsqueen. It was nice to meet you on the Q&A last Sunday. So happy birthday to you. Doc Durkin, on the counter narrative, Lebanon has been making headway to desettlerize the north of Palestine, e.g. they don't move back. These are desperate last gasps of a dying Zionist state. Well, that's all the more reason to be concerned about World War III. because, as the walls close in, they understand the same thing that Ukraine understands.
Cornered animals, the most dangerous.
Right, which is that the only way to win is to involve the United States, which in this context would, of course, be to involve the world, since that would be a pylon, just like Russia-Ukraine could potentially be that pylon, right?
And in our arrogance, we won't take the loss.
Exactly, right. Noah Goop, AOC advocate of censorship. Thank you. War is peace, freedom is slavery. Absolutely. Dodger 12, thanks for the $2. This admin and deep state are absolutely the best at destroying the world as we know it. Pricks, indeed. Thank you very much. Kinky says, eat the rich libs. YouTube would not accept this message. These people are shit lib fundamentalists. It's a damn cult. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Sparky says, build a better world with bricks. Thank you, Sparky. Username, bring vendetta back as a doctrine. Come on, stop it. Save. There we go. Cthulhu for president 2024. What's the shirt you got today?
That's today. Well, today I have the Monty Python.
Yeah, it's not
one.
Cthulhu. It's the Monty Python one. Yep, that's right. Beautiful.
Strange women bearing swords 2024.
May have sent this twice. What language do Lebanese people speak? Who was this English message really for? Well, that's another thing. And that's another deja vu moment. Yeah, they released an English language statement that's translated to Hebrew when they were warning the people in Gaza, right? It's PR. It's cover your ass, plausible deniability. And as that fails, they'll become even more dangerous. Yep. Ukrainian mail order. What would America do if Mexico invited Russia and China to build military bases on their northern border? I bet it's worse than what Russia's done. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sparky, thanks for the $5. Keaton, if you knew how much more opportunity Russell and I had than millennials had, you'd be pissed. Well, I caught up to my man Russell pretty good, did I not? With this little operation I lifted off the ground here, I seem to have caught up to him. So I'm not as resentful as maybe I should be. In my
he's doing better. He's got a wife. He's got kids. I don't even have a house plant.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean that. I just meant, we're on equal footing here with the project. Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, I wasn't going to take it that far. Yeah. All right, everybody. That is our show. We appreciate you all very much. Thank you for being here. We will see you again. We don't have anything tomorrow, do we not? We finally have a day off.
No, I'm headed down to DC tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Russell's going to DC tomorrow. So Russell will be joining for a Thursday AM show from our nation's capital. So wish Russell a bon voyage, and Russell will join us on Thursday morning for Morning Dew. It is important, folks, that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, that you follow us on the Rumble channel. Like I said, censorship is getting out of control. This is starting to feel more and more like working in the mob. We're just any day, flip switch, done. Yep. It's happened to some of our peers in recent days. And so if you can become a member, that is hugely helpful. So if you go to dudissidents.locals.com and join our locals, like I said, we make the perks as worthwhile as we can. We just did a real fun patron show yesterday, so that's some fresh material for you to chew on because you're going to miss us tomorrow. We're not on tomorrow. So if you need some new Due Dissidents that you want to watch, become a member, and you got a show that's just 2 days old that you can watch tomorrow. You could put it on at 2 o'clock and pretend we're live, right? You could do that. We have a whole back catalog for you to check out. So please, if you can, join our locals. It helps tremendously.
That's how fast it takes for a guy to get whacked.
Yeah, exactly. Sparky says, anything MSM is CIA curated. If they say anything worthwhile, the alternative media suggests we'll mention it. So it's more efficient to just watch alternative media like the Duran and the Gray Zone, etc. The only problem with that, Sparky, is they don't publish 100 articles a day. So we would not catch up on the news. We wouldn't have a news show to bring you if all we did was watch 3-hour live streams by people we like. That's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem,
exactly. It's just not enough time.
Right. Just
when we listen to shit, it's for the next show.
Right. Like if you told people, hey, check out Do Dissidents, they're great. If another content creator, but you wanted them to recommend us, well, what? They got to watch us for 3 hours. They got a show to put together tomorrow. Like sometimes you need that. You need that material. And look, where we can feature indie creators, we do. That's why there were other sources I could have used for the Lebanon strike. I picked antiwar.com, you know? So like we still do that whenever we can. But you got to keep up with the pace.
Sometimes with certain stories, you want to use corporate media so that it's unimpeachable from the libs.
Well, that's another reason why I do it. I like to use those sources to sort of steelman the argument.
Right.
Where they can't say, "Oh, where'd you find that?"
Where'd you
Some
find
commie
it?
site. You
Right.
know, exactly. Right. It's like, no, I like to do a jujitsu where here I'll use the New York Times' words against you. Right.
Yeah.
This way you can't impugn the source. Exactly.
Right.
That's called steel manning, as I understand. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you all. Thank you to our YouTubers, to our Rumblers. We appreciate you being here this afternoon. We will see you again on Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, for some morning dew. I'll be where I always am. Russell will be in Washington, D.C., and then we have a very exciting weekend of on-the-ground coverage for you. So lots to come in the coming days. We are off tomorrow. We will see you 9 a.m. Thursday morning. Until then, thanks for being here with us this afternoon. Thanks to Martin, who just became a YouTube member. We appreciate that very much. And we will see you all Thursday morning. Until then, thanks for today. Be safe. Be well.
Courage!
Please clap.